that you know I'm a collector, I hope you'll have a little more respect.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Laconia Planning Board to order. Could we have the roll call, please?
Jay Forrester?
Here.
Belleville?
Here.
Sarah Jenna?
Here.
Gail Tanayo?
Here.
Charlie St. Clair?
Here.
Dave Bowns?
Here.
Mike Delavicchio? Edwin Bonas?
Here.
Claudia Marchese?
Here.
And Chair Peter Burnett.
And staff is also here, and we're happy to see you tonight. And I want to welcome Ms. Jenna and Mr. Belleville. This is your first meeting, I think, someone told me. We have, I believe, one seat that needs to be filled. Is that correct? No?
Yes.
Yes, one seat, yeah. Two, yes, no?
I mean, Bill's.
Bill's seat, right?
Yep.
Mr. Contardo's seat. So, you guys, you can split the night if you'd like. Who would like to be seated as a full member for the first half of the meeting, say? Want to do that? Great, then I guess it will be Ms. Jenna. So for the purposes of the record right now, let the record show that Ms. Jenna is a full member, a voting member tonight. What's the next item? I can't see anything here.
Minutes.
The minutes, Ms. Graham. No? Oh, we need to make a motion to accept the minutes.
No,
No?
no.
What do we need, David?
We just need to know if there's any changes. If there are not any changes, you can just accept the minutes as they've been presented.
Oh, well, now that I've been informed as to what I should be doing, are there any changes that anyone would like to make to the minutes that were distributed to you? Sensing not, then we will accept the minutes as submitted to the membership and let the record show that they were accepted, the June 5th meeting. Okay, in attendance tonight, we have Dean Trefethen and Brandy Laughlin. We have a quorum for the evening, and we have seated the alternate member for this part of it. We're at presentations then, I believe.
We have none.
You have none, all right. Any extensions? All right, so, continued public hearings, consideration and possible vote. At the top of the agenda tonight is 8.1 and 8.2. That's PL 2015 0142 SP AMD, the White Oaks Road Paugus Woods Development. It's a proposal to amend the original approval to allow for the second access. And PL 2011 0024 SP and 0026 CUP for, it's a conditional use permit for a steep slope. And 0027 CUP, the wetlands. 2015 0141 SU, 2018 0023 SU, and 553 Wares Boulevard is the address. Langley Cove Development, and that's a proposal for 291 unit development and boundary line adjustment. And I think it's an understatement to say that it's not the first time this matter's been on the agenda. I think we start with White Oaks, yeah, the Paugus Woods development first, since Langley Cove can't be approved, one can't be approved without the other. And let me see here. So we're gonna open the public hearing at 6:35 PM. And I guess we start by hearing from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Mark Pinard for Brady Sullivan Properties and both the applicant for the Paugus Woods matter and the Langley Cove matter.
Good evening.
As you're aware, thank you. As you're aware, this Langley Cove matter has been before this board for over 10 years now. The Paugus Woods piece of this has been planned as part of the secondary access to the Langley Cove matter upon the advice of the planning staff. There was a time at which there was designed into the Paugus Woods development a second means of access for that subdivision only, and that was going to go through some wetlands and require some conservation impact. So the city planning staff said, as long as you're going to be working on this this Langley Cove matter, we can have you tie the projects together, have a secondary means of access which will be opened at the time that a certain amount of COs have been issued for one project or the other. So we are here asking that application for Paugus Woods be approved this evening. I've been talking with Dean about some of the details on this today and previously over many months. And I want to thank the staff. They've done a lot of work on this. They've put a lot of time into it. John Roque, our engineer, along with our other professionals, have created voluminous plans. This thing has been vetted and vetted and vetted again. Every time we've been asked to make a change to the engineering, we've done so. We've done everything that we've been asked to do. And John was a young man when this began, and he is no longer a young man. Our main concern with the Paugus application is that it's being proposed that some improvements be made to Palmetto Lane or Drive or whatever it's called. And we're okay with that. We did a site walk a few weeks ago, and we identified a stretch of Palmetto which is about 375 feet long. It's in not great condition, and we understand the need to improve that section of Palmetto in order for safe passage should emergency vehicles need to pass through Paugus to get to Langley. It's important to note, however, that we have come to an agreement that there will be a gate at that access point, and that gate is going to be locked at all times. It would only be opened in the event that there needs to be emergency access. So there'll be access by fire, emergency, they can get in and out as needed. And we've talked to Dean about the style of gate. It's a simple 20-foot wide metal gate that would be locked. Charlie Rofo wants a daisy chain set of locks on it so that he can have his own lock and others can have their own lock, so different people can open it up with different keys. The agreement on the gate really solved a lot of problems. People from Paugus Woods, understandably, didn't want Langley Cove traffic going through their subdivision. Understand it, sympathetic to it. So this gate solves that problem, and I believe the way all the engineering has been done, we simply need to take one of the lots out of Paugus and create that access way. And put up that gate, and access will be there when it's needed, but it's not going to be a travel way for ordinary traffic. We're okay with improving the road at the expense of Langley Cove developer, but it has to be done at an appropriate time. In the conditions that have been submitted by staff, they're suggesting that the improvements to Palmetto be accomplished by September 1st of 2019. And in the applicant's estimation, that's an arbitrary date. It doesn't appear to have been set based upon when that access way is needed, but basically a date was picked as to when that should occur. We disagree with that approach. We believe that it would only be fair and equitable for the cost of those improvements be made at the time that the access is needed. And access will be needed when Paugus Woods gets to a certain number of units, I think it's 50, or Langley gets to a certain number of units, which I believe is 50. So we're nowhere near that. And we have let the residents know that those potholes on Palmetto that currently exist will be taken care of. So if there's a concern about the existing potholes, those are going to be addressed in the near future. So if people are concerned that this whole thing has to be taken care of in order to deal with the potholes that are there, that's not the case. The potholes are going to be taken care of separately and in the near future. So it's our suggestion, our hope that we can have a reasonable solution on when the road improvements occur, and that should be at a reasonable time prior to that access being needed. So if we're approaching 50 COs on either side of that gate, that should be the trigger. That should be when the Langley Cove developer is required to fix that roadway area. That accomplishes the goal of getting it fixed. It accomplishes the goal of creating safe passage for the fire and safety personnel. And again, the reason that that has to be done is for fire and safety. So that should be based upon when it's needed and be tied into the respective development of Paugus and/or Langley. The other problem with the conditions that staff has presented on the Paugus side of this is that the Langley Cove developer will be responsible for all sections of the Paugus Woods property access road area, including mowing, brush, trimming on both sides of the road, keeping the pavement in good condition and plowed and treated all winter. We find that unreasonable and unnecessary. Paugus Woods is going to be plowing its roads. It has maintenance, it has lawn care, it has landscaping, it has plowing. It needs to maintain those roads on its own to serve its residents. It doesn't make any sense to have the Langley developer responsible to come in to Paugus and maintain a section of the roadway. We have to remember that this gate, this secondary access, is to benefit both Paugus and Langley. So it might be needed to get emergency equipment into Paugus. It might be needed to get emergency equipment over to Langley. In either case, both of those projects would stand on their own for maintenance, repair, mowing, and those types of things. Once the gate is in and paid for by the applicant, and the roadway is resurfaced, Paugus should take care of its roads, Langley should take care of its roads. So we feel very strongly that the condition regarding Langley Cove developer being responsible for those Paugus road areas be removed from the conditions.
Help me here. Which condition are you talking about? What's the number?
It is
4C number 2.
Or under the compliance review, number 12.
Yeah, it's at 12. And 17 is where the condition is regarding the September 1st, 2019 improvement of the roadway. And again, if you think about the reality of the situation, Langley Cove roads, which might be used to benefit Paugus. Paugus is going to maintain its roads, which might be used to access Langley. It only makes sense. And I don't honestly see a valid basis to have a section of roadway maintained by another developer when those roads have to be maintained anyway.
Could the Langley Cove development be built without that access road through the Pogus Woods development?
Not after 50 units, but neither could Pogus be built out to its maximum approved capacity, which I think is 93. So it's an
Right.
equal trade-off.
Well, it isn't quite an equal trade-off, considering the difference in size and scale between the two developments, wouldn't you say?
I don't agree, because Langley is going to be maintaining a much greater, longer road system for its increased number of units. Pogus is maintaining a shorter road area for its smaller number of units, 93 versus 291. And the roadways are of similar length in connection with the number of units. In other words, Langley's going to be maintaining twice, almost 3 times, the road length. So Langley's going to have a very long area of roadway to maintain, and that's going to be for Pogus's benefit if needed.
Who's responsible for maintenance of the roads in Pogus Woods at this time?
There's a homeowners association.
No, there is, no, there isn't.
Yes, there is.
No, there isn't. There's a Brady Sullivan.
Please, this gentleman has the floor.
There's an association. It gets control of that gets turned over to the residents after 10 years. But there is an association in place which Brady Sullivan controls, and that's the fact of it. Whether it's controlled by a developer or not doesn't take away the fact that there's an association. There are common area expenses, and the residents of Pogus pay into those fees based upon their ownership interest in that development. And I cannot stress enough that with that gate in place and locked, Langley puts no burden on that road. Once it's rebuilt, there's no burden on that road created by Langley. Zero.
So your objection is to Langley Cove having any responsibility to maintain roads in Pogus Woods, correct?
Or vice versa.
Well,
But
or vice
for the
versa.
purposes of this
But
application.
vice versa is not being proposed, is it?
No, but I'm saying it wouldn't make sense to
So-
flip it either.
So, and Brady Sullivan, or a homeowners association controlled by Brady Sullivan, is currently responsible for the maintenance in Pogus Woods.
That's correct.
And Brady Sullivan built the roads in Pogus Wood, but they're not to finished grade, right?
No, Brady Sullivan did not build them. Brady Sullivan inherited them.
I'm sorry, they inherited them. They have assumed all the responsibilities from the initial approvals, however.
Yes.
Okay. Which, if I understand it, means that you don't need to bring all those roads up to finished grade in Pogus Woods until you reach a certain point in the phasing of the development. Is that correct?
Yes, based upon how this board approved that prior to Brady Sullivan's ownership.
And Brady Sullivan would be in control of the phasing and the timing of that development, wouldn't they?
Not entirely, because Brady Sullivan has made an effort to sell that final phase. And when the buyer came into City Hall to do due diligence to make that purchase, the buyer was told that it possibly wasn't vested, it might have to come back to the planning board, and the buyer basically said, I don't want to get into all that. So part of the reason Pogus shouldn't be paid for in terms of maintenance by Langley is Pogus Woods might be sold to another developer. Once these Langley approvals are obtained, there could be another developer doing the construction. It doesn't make sense to have one project supporting the other.
Well, except that, I mean, the goal is for at least the access road to the gate in Pogus Woods to be maintained by Langley Cove. That's staff's recommendation, right? Make it part of the Langley Cove approval that they are responsible for the whole stretch.
That's the
That's the staff's recommendation.
proposal.
The goal being that that stretch of road, at least part of the Pogus Woods development, would be brought up to finished grade and maintained, right?
That condition we're okay for, fixing that piece of road, we've agreed to that.
Right, because it's Palmetto, that long stretch.
Right.
With the giant potholes and the,
Right, we've agreed to fixing it. What we don't agree to, and again, this would make maybe some sense if the gate was open and there was gonna be constant travel back and forth. Then maybe there's an argument, and I don't even buy it in that context, because you still have two developments that are equally benefiting from the ability to get back and forth through the access way. But in this scenario, with the gate locked and never opened, to me, it makes no sense to have Langley maintaining a road on the other side of the gate. Because Paugus has to maintain its roads already. It's got to be plowed, it's got to be sanded, it's got to be mowed, it's got to be maintained. That doesn't change. This is suggesting that Paugus is now going to maintain part of its roads, and Langley's going to come in and maintain the balance of it when it's not even using the roadway.
okay. So, for the benefit of this discussion then, let's say that Paugus Woods, and, which at this point is Brady Sullivan, and then its successors, would be responsible for the continued maintenance of the roads in Paugus Woods in perpetuity, right? That's what you're saying. You want Paugus Woods to be responsible for the maintenance of the Paugus Woods roads, and Langley Cove to be responsible for the construction and maintenance of the Langley Woods roads, the Langley Cove roads, right?
Yes.
So wouldn't the maintenance of the Paugus Woods roads be enhanced and facilitated if the roads were all brought up to finished grade?
There's a whole plan for Paugus to have its roads brought up to finished grade. It's based upon the approvals granted by this board, and it's based on when development occurs.
Right.
And you know what? It's funny to me because I went to meet Dean and Charlie over there to see the condition of these roadways. And I was stunned because I heard at these meetings that those roads are impassable and they are just an absolute mess. And frankly, there's a stretch of 375 feet that needs some work. The rest of those roadways are fine. Yet for months I heard about how the entire subdivision is impassable and it's a mess. And it's just not true,
Well, but the entire subdivision is base coat only, and it's been that way for 10 years or
which is
so.
how it was
Right.
approved. That
Right.
It would be base. And I don't know if you've been up there, but the roads are fine, except for that stretch that's gonna be fixed.
I understand that, but what I'm getting at is you're not insinuating in any way that this board does not have the authority to make, as a condition of approval, the developer improve all the roads in Paugus Woods to bring them up to finished grade now, regardless of what the prior approvals may have said.
I would say that you don't have that ability. It wouldn't be fair, it wouldn't be equitable, and it wouldn't be treating the Langley Cove developer equally as you treat other developers in the city.
All right. So you're saying we can't do that
I'm saying,
legally?
I believe you cannot legally do that.
Okay.
Part of the argument here is, well, developers have to do off-site improvements. That's common. We're doing 1,900 feet of water line on Wares Boulevard at an enormous expense. We're paying for the third of a bridge improvement at great expense. And we're doing the turn lanes, and we're doing sidewalks. There's plenty of off-site benefits here. And I'm saying that improving all the Paugus roads, because a fire truck might have to come through a locked gate at some point, I'm saying that authority does not exist.
Okay. You're an attorney, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me the site for that, the authority that you're citing, that the planning board?
No, it's an equitable matter. I would go to Judge O'Neill, and I would say this is not sustainable. This issue is about safe passage. Is there a need to get a fire truck from one development to another? In order to have safe passage, you need to have a road that can be used. When Paugus had a second access way in the plan, it was a gravel road. Approved, engineered gravel. That was deemed to be safe passage.
Excuse me, that was just for Paugus Woods though, right?
Yeah, we're talking about secondary access.
That's, I just wanted to make sure that the gravel road was for Paugus Woods and not for Langley.
It was, but my
Okay.
point being about safe passage. If a gravel road was sufficient for safe passage for secondary access for Paugus, then I submit to you that, and there is case law on safe passage. I don't have the sites with me, but I can certainly provide them. But if gravel is okay for safe passage on one scenario, then base coat has got to be acceptable for safe passage under another scenario.
When was that approval given? How many years ago was that? That was more than 10 years ago?
Not quite 10 years, it's probably 8.5. I think in November of next year, it'll be 10 years.
Sure, please.
I'm a little confused, but it is the need for this access that gets you the approval. You need this access, with a gate or without a gate. You need this access, that road access, you need it, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the roadway that we're talking about, that may be in Paugus Woods, is a roadway that you're building to develop Langley, right?
It's already built.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, we can do, I've got a few more points.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you want me to continue, or?
Yeah, go ahead, I'll wait.
So I just want to make sure I cover the Paugus points, and then I'll hit the Langley points in a moment. Again, I think it's important to note that the shared access arrangement came from this staff. They said, do it this way, where, again, as we have time and time again, we've just done what we've been told, and this suggestion that one developer maintain the road of another project, to me, it defies logic, it defies reasonableness, and it defies equity. Because again, Paugus has to maintain its own roads. It does not have the ability to say, well, a couple of years from now, Langley might need this for fire truck access, so now we don't have to develop that piece of the road, or maintain that piece of the road. Doesn't make sense.
Okay. Are you
Okay.
done, Attorney Bernard?
I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, it's more of a comment. You mentioned the off-site improvements, the turn lane and the water line there. But those have to be done for the development. If the development wasn't there, the city's not gonna put that stuff in because we don't need it.
Yeah, you need the water line.
Well-
You need it badly.
But we don't need that, we don't need the turn lane, and the water you're doing 191 feet. That's not the whole line, is
I
it?
mean, 1,900 feet.
1,900 feet. That goes from the entrance there to the pump station, or? Like
It's
to
up
hear
by
it?
St. Moritz,
Like, it goes,
completely separate area.
okay, where does the water line go?
It's like 19, I'm sorry. The 1,900 feet that needs to be replaced is a cast iron section that's
Yeah.
up kind of by St. Moritz
Okay,
that is constantly breaking and needing to be repaired. And it's the whole purpose of that water line being repaired and turned in, being ductile, is so that Waterworks can push water up to, like the Aqua Soleil project.
okay, but if you guys weren't there.
The city would have to
the
eventually
city-
do it on its own.
Right, so it's not, my point is that whether you guys are there or not, the turn lane doesn't have to be done. And the water thing, the city will have to pick it up like it's always doing, everywhere else in the city, so.
So the city's getting no benefit of us doing it for them.
Well, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that as a resident. I'm shrugging my shoulders and saying, well, whether you guys are there or not, this will take place one way or the other, that's all, the water line.
On the secondary access, like if the access point wasn't put in this spot, like basically it takes the Paugus Woods requirement for a secondary access from approximately 800 or 900 feet of a gravel road through like a wetland area, down to like 100 some feet of a paved access that's the difference in the maintenance. If we don't have this access point, Paugus is gonna have vastly bigger area to take care of than what this little tiny stretch is between Langley and Paugus. So Paugus is getting a huge benefit of having a much shorter paved access with what we're doing with Langley.
But
Thank you,
again,
Mr.
Paugus and Langley, it's the same owner right now, as far as I'm concerned. It's run by, you've got different property owners up there who own their business, houses, but the reality is the whole thing's being run by Brady Sullivan Development until that homeowners association takes over, and they haven't
Yeah.
taken over yet. So right now, we're talking about, we keep saying one and the other, but it's really the same guy. It's not the same guy.
Two separate entities.
But it's owned by the same, it's owned by the same corporation, right? Oh, two different corporations.
Yeah, they're separate entities.
Okay, but it's the same person at the top, no?
There is common ownership, but they're separate entities, they're separate projects, and either one of them could be sold, and then that commonality goes away. And I will submit to you, and Bill will get us the research on it, but it's illegal and unreasonable to have Langley developer paying to maintain a Paugus Road. The common law precedent on this is safe passage. And it's already safe passage in terms of how it's constructed. When Charlie Rofo was over there, he looked around, he said, it looks okay to me. He literally had no comments at that walkthrough about upgrading the road. This repaving is something that staff is promoting because of the desire from the Paugus residents, and we get that, and we're conceding that. But to go beyond the repaving and say, now you're gonna maintain part of this other project, it doesn't make sense, it's not gonna hold up in court, and if it's tested, we're gonna prevail on that.
Any other questions for Mr. Bernard?
Yeah, I just got one question. The reason, we say the road is there, I get that, but it's a road that goes nowhere right now. You're gonna link it up with Langley, right?
No, it doesn't go nowhere, it's part of the subdivision, so it's a loop.
Right.
We're gonna take out a lot, and we're gonna make part of it go straight ahead.
Go straight ahead.
Right.
And you don't wanna maintain the road that you're gonna make go straight ahead.
No, we want to maintain the Langley side of the gate by Langley. We want Paugus to maintain the Paugus side of the gate. It's got to be done anyway. I'm frankly stunned that we're having this conversation because it makes zero sense.
Indulge my old senile
Okay,
self.
go ahead.
Okay?
Yep.
So, what you're doing is you're making this road so that Langley Cove can get approvals. Without this gated road, you can't get an approval.
But it's also to satisfy a Paugus requirement. Paugus needs this as much as Langley needs it.
I'm not
I
suggesting.
concede to you that Langley needs this, but
Okay.
also, Paugus cannot go beyond 49 units without this access. So if staff over these many years had said, build your second road, go through the wetland, build the bridge, do the environmental impact, then there would be a separate gravel road for Paugus secondary access, and Paugus wouldn't need it. And it would be a different argument about Langley, because then Langley would have a unilateral need for it. But that's not the case. Based upon what the staff told us to do, this configuration was established. And again, I'm at a loss for why it would make sense for one development to maintain part of another development when that development already has to maintain its own roads. It's suggesting that Paugus is now going to maintain part of its roads while somebody else maintains the rest, because someday a gate might be opened and a fire truck might drive through it. It's nonsense.
I understand your position. Do you understand mine?
I frankly don't. When I hear these arguments that it makes some sense for Langley to maintain a Paugus Road, I don't get it, because we're fixing the road. It's gonna be, what has been asked for. But now, you sell Langley to another developer, and they're looking at their due diligence and saying, well, why do I have to plow this road when we're not gonna use it? Our traffic isn't going there. I'm sorry for being
Don't be sorry.
so dumbfounded, but I'm just not getting this.
Okay. I'm trying to
And-
explain
and-
you my point of view.
I
You
get
don't
that,
get it, it's
but,
okay.
but I, you know,
You're dumbfounded, I'm good with that.
okay, it's just, it's frustrating.
Any other questions for Mr. Bernard? Attorney Bernard, I just want to be clear on something, because are you saying that this board does not have the authority under the planning and zoning statutes to require the developer to improve all the roads in Paugus Woods?
I do. I believe that strongly. Bill Philpott,
Well, let me,
Can I, Bill, before, I just
Yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
get Mr. Bernard on the record here. So,
No,
you're
I want it broken down before it's on the record. All of the roads in Paugus Woods as a condition approval of Langley, I think that's important on the record. If that's what the chairman's saying, I want that on the record put that way.
Attorney Philpott, what I'm getting at is, he said that we can't do it, and if we try to do it, they would seek injunctive relief, correct? That it isn't a matter of law, it's a matter of equity. I believe that's what he said.
Well, the standard for review by Superior Court of the decision-making here is whether it's reasonable and illegal and unreasonable. Now, what Attorney Bernard is putting forth, incidentally, for the record, Bill Philpott, I don't identify myself, that's one of my problems.
That's I should have
Okay.
pointed it out, but you're a local celebrity, so I figured
Yeah,
everyone would know.
there you go, there you go. The criteria, we're just asking you to look at this problem from a practical perspective. As Mark has indicated, this is gated off, okay? So, we're gonna have a shared access here. What is going to be the impact on the road? That should be the measure, okay? He's put forth the concept of safe passage. We already have bases in these roads which were approved, I would assume, by the appropriate department. They don't have the finished topping on them. They only have the first coat of asphalt because construction was ongoing, okay? To say now, and I hope it's not being said, that imposing a condition that all the roads in Paugus Woods will be brought up to a certain standard when the standard has been satisfactory for, presumably for emergency vehicles too, I might add, the base, okay? Must be brought up to a certain standard as a condition of Langley. That, I submit, is unreasonable and illegal because it defies logic. Mark is suggesting to you that the standard is safe passage because we want those trucks and those personnel to be protected. And for an arbitrary decision, well, whether it's from, it can't be from a safe passage perspective, it's got to be from perhaps an aesthetic passage and changing the timing on things. We're just playing by the rules. The board imposed the conditions for Paugus Wood. We're using that rule book. We're not changing anything. We're not saying, no, we're not going to do that. We're just saying we're going to bring that stretch of road, 375 feet, up to acceptable standard safe passage by checking the base and paving, cutting it out with the saw. And then when the time for the second coat or conditioning the pavement that perhaps gets broken up by the second phase of development in Paugus Woods, that'll be completed per the approvals. And I might add, and it's been stated a number of times early on before you came, Mr. Chairman, and I'm just bringing you up to speed. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not toying.
Saving me a lot of time on YouTube is what you're doing.
Yeah, okay?
Right.
The rights are reserved in the Paugus Woods Declaration. This is not something that was sprung on the owners of Paugus Woods. It's there.
What's there? You lost me.
Reservation for passage.
When Paugus.
And
was-
we discussed that, Charlie, you were here.
No, I just wanted to be sure. But
Yeah, okay, well, I'd rather you ask than wonder,
I
okay?
asked. I'll probably ask a few more times.
As my wife says, people don't understand what you're talking about, okay? So adhere to that, Charlie. If you think you have a question, blurt it out.
I've got another
I
one.
can give it and I can take it, okay?
Don't encourage him.
I've got, may I ask another one?
Sure.
Actually, this is for you. You said that somebody was interested in buying the other lots there in Paugus Woods, and they were gonna buy that, and maybe finish the construction.
Right.
But they came to the planning department, and somebody had said, well, this may not be something you wanna be interested in.
Yeah,
Do you know when that happened? Who they talked to?
I don't know. Well, I had a buyer who was interested. That buyer went away saying, we have been told at City Hall that Phase 3 is not vested and that we would possibly have to go back to the board for a full approval. And Paugus could not be more vested at this point, but I'll let Dean respond.
Well, let me jump in. My recollection is, and I cram a lot of garbage in my head, I have that ability, okay?
Me
It
too.
wasn't, there you go. It wasn't during Dean's regime.
Yeah, and I
okay?
didn't.
He doesn't have to defend himself. I'll
Yeah.
defend him.
Yeah, and I didn't suggest it was Dean. I said City Hall because.
So nobody told anybody that you shouldn't be interested in a project. I believe I probably talked to someone during the time between after Shanna left and Dean came and I was working as interim. And my understanding of the project, based on the files, was that it potentially was not vested. I don't know that we've looked into it since then.
And that has to do with the fact that the developer's in control as to whether or not they're gonna proceed to the next phase of a development, any development, correct?
Let's not get sidetracked here, because,
Well, there's a reason I'm asking this.
well, let's not get
David,
sidetracked here.
please, we're trying to resolve his question first, and the staff is just
The reason I'm
responding.
asking about this is because the roads can't all be brought up to how they should be in Paugus Woods until these other places are built. Is that correct?
Well, that is correct, that's part of the phasing, but that would be a fool's exercise because you'd smash up all the roads with heavy equipment. That's standard operating procedure
I
in
get that,
development.
I get
As
that.
you know, Charlie.
I get that. So my question is, and again, from the outside observer, just, looking and listening and reading, it seems to me like, I don't know if that's ever gonna be done in the lifetime of anybody in this room. Unless Brady Sullivan finds somebody that says, okay, we'll buy that property
had
and
that
finish it.
person.
Well, you're saying that, and I have no reason to doubt it.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking that, that this is to me at least, this is a real issue. I don't know, we're building this other big project, and it's gonna be a whopper, this Langley Cove thing. I don't know how they're gonna do this. To me, it's just like moving mountaintops. But in any event, I don't see how the Paugus Woods thing is ever gonna be finished. It seems to me like this is gonna be just shunted aside, and those places aren't gonna be built, and that these people are gonna be living not as I, as a resident of Laconia, would like to see any of my fellow residents have to deal
But
with.
the key to finishing Paugus is the second access. So you can't build out Phase 3 of Paugus without that second access way. So the reason it's sitting
To
there,
White Oaks Road?
But you can't build Langley Cove at all without it.
that's right.
Okay, so to get back to Attorney Philpott's point, if I might, and to follow up on what Charlie's saying, if the touchstone is whether it was reasonable or whether the decision was arbitrary, I think it would be reasonable, this is just my opinion, that the planning board take into consideration the public input that we get at the public hearings. And if the public's perception is that unless the developer is required to do improvements beyond what the developer is proposing, based upon the comments from the public, from the people that really have a vested interest in it, the people that live there, the people in that neighborhood, then that would seem to me to be a reasonable exercise of this board's authority.
But you're taking the word of people who have their own vested interest They've told you that all of the roads in Paugus are unpassable. Ask Dean what the roads look like. We were out there together, and I drove up and I was astounded. I thought every inch of that road was gonna be a disaster. We identified 375 feet of road that needs some work. Dean, are the balance of the roads impassable? Was the description of those roads in this hearing room exaggerated?
The section we've identified on Palmetto that needs to be repaired is the only section in Paugus Woods that is deteriorated to any degree,
To that point.
to any degree.
And the standard
Now,
isn't
the-
impassability, right? I mean, the standard is
This,
whether it's capable of being maintained.
It certainly is capable of being maintained. It can be plowed with no problem, it can be driven on with no problem. All of the roads in Paugus Woods, when compared to, you name any multitude of other public streets within the city, Union Ave, Pleasant Street, et cetera, they're in better condition than those streets are.
Better.
Well, I could
And
run with
have
that.
Much better.
1/100th of the traffic, 200 cars a day versus 15,000 on Union Avenue. So from that standpoint, there's, other than that section of Palmetto, I'm not going to say there's nothing wrong with the roads in Paugus Woods, because this is New England and all roads have cracks and develop potholes and et cetera, et cetera. So, but from the standpoint of, to address the question asked of, is it maintainable? Absolutely. And the dynamic has changed in our several months of discussions here at the board. The dynamic has changed in that originally we were talking about sending a third of the traffic from Langley Cove through Paugus Woods. Well, that's no longer the case. And you certainly could have made the argument, 3 or 4 months ago, that most people would come out of Langley Cove and go straight across on Palmetto and then exit down Sarasota, and I believe that's true. However, you could also make the argument that some people may want to take the scenic route and go around the rest of the development. But, given the circumstances right now where we're going to have a gate, 99.9% of the time it's closed, then what we really only need to address is the condition of Palmetto. And yes, Assistant Fire Chief Rufo is there. I mean, from a standpoint of getting a fire truck up there now, if there was an emergency anywhere in Paugus Woods, a fire truck can get up there now, and a fire truck could get through there and go into Langley Cove if that access road was there.
I think it was pointed out, Dean, they could do that on gravel road.
And they could do
I
that,
get-
yeah.
I get that.
Right.
What do you call is it called just a base? It's a
All,
base pavement, or
all
those-
except for the first part of Sarasota has just base.
That's what you call it, it's base. And base means what?
It's basically a 2-inch binder. That's the base coat of asphalt, and usually there's
What would you call it if the second part was put on?
that's the top coat,
That's all it's called, is a top
On the
coat?
finished coat, and it's a
Finished
different
coat?
composition than
the
the
different
base.
composition, yes.
The base
Called the
consists
fini-
of larger aggregate.
But it's called finish,
Yep,
like the finished product, like
yes, sir,
sanded wood with varnish on it.
Right.
correct.
This is rough wood.
Put down stain and then put the varnish on top, yes, sir.
It's not just appearance, right? It has to do with the wearability of the road.
Right,
Because of the
right.
larger aggregate and the
Difference. I
base
just want to
coat,
make sure that.
And the base coat
there's a
does
difference.
not last as long.
it
and-
wears
and
fast.
That is why
It has.
we have the condition that we have in Palmetto now.
And so it's conceivable that the base coat would not survive the phasing that would require the top coat to be put on, correct?
Meaning,
Meaning, if the-
if Phase 3 were built and construction trucks were going over the roads, and then just base coat, what would happen to them? Is that what you're asking?
It'd be pummeled, wouldn't it?
Well, certainly is a real possibility, yes. But that would be the responsibility of the developer, then they would have to completely redo the road, not just a matter of doing a repair job.
Those potholes that are there now, they're not a result of construction vehicles, are they?
No, they're just wear and tear,
They're just wear and tear on the
base coat.
base coat. And they just happen from the little bit of traffic that happens up there, not from Union Avenue type traffic,
Well,
right? So what is to stop that?
And weather can have a
It's
lot.
weather too.
Yeah,
Whatever
weather.
it is, it's the same base coat all over the place.
Right.
So what happened on that stretch of road can happen next March or February, right around the corner, correct?
Yes.
You're gonna maintain, you're gonna take care of the potholes, right?
Well,
we're gonna, the potholes are gonna be taken care of in the near future. And as I suggested earlier in the beginning of my presentation, the upgrade of that stretch of Palmetto should be done not on an arbitrary date, but when it's needed to be done for the purposes of the access. And again, I cannot stress enough that Langley's not gonna be using the Paugus roads. It's gonna be gated, it's gonna be locked, there's gonna be a zero Langley traffic using the Paugus roads.
Are there-
I'm sorry. Who's in charge of the roads right now up there?
There's a property management company that maintains the roads.
Okay, but who's in charge of the property management? Who gives them the orders to go in and fix something?
Brady Sullivan is the property manager that hires third-party contractors to do
Okay,
things.
so those potholes haven't been there just a week. They've been there quite a while.
No, but the frustration is when you, the monthly assessment at Paugus are extremely low. When you do work that's not in the budget, you have to special assess the residents. When you special assess the residents, they get upset. So it's a balancing act. We could come in and do all kinds of great things, send a bill to the residents, and they say, wait a minute, we don't want to pay this. So the things that are done there are done so conservatively. The potholes are an issue, the potholes are going to be addressed.
I guess, wow, I would never live there. I guess what I'm saying is that, so these potholes show up, Brady Sullivan and his second party is in charge of the roads, but to fix the roads, the residents have to pay for that, like an additional cost?
Yeah, when you buy into a community that has common expenses,
Part of the association
you
fee.
pay a common area, so like a condo or a planned unit development, you buy a home and you agree that you're going to be responsible on a pro rata share for the maintenance of the common areas. And when you set assessments, some assessments are very high, some are tried to be kept at the low level. So, you know, when you set those, you do so based upon what needs to be done and what the reaction is going to be by people who have to pay in to defray those expenses. That's the,
Okay, I feel so stupid. This is a stupid question. Do people who live in Paugus Woods pay less property taxes because if the roads are fixed, they're gonna have to pay for them?
no.
The private roads, they're not village
I understand they're
roads.
private roads, so my question is, are they paying less property taxes there? Because if the roads need to be fixed, it's not the city that's fixing them, it's themselves that are fixing them.
Can't
Do
they-
that anywhere with private roads.
They
though.
pay-
I'm just asking.
I think the situation that exists in Paugus Woods is not unique.
Okay.
I don't know that I want to go so far as to say that it's common, but it's certainly, you would find this type of a situation in multiple places in the state where the homeowners association, whether it's controlled by the developer or not, wants to keep their property maintenance fees low. And because of that, they're not building up a reserve or whatever. And when something special comes along, the only way to really pay for it is to do a special assessment. And that's not a unique situation. I do understand the frustration when it occurs. My mother lives in a condo development that does this all the time, and it's very frustrating. But you know, she's only paying $175 a month for the condo fee, so, I mean, you know, pay me now or pay me later, right?
So I have two questions. One I'm gonna reserve for somebody from the public from Pogus Woods, but the other one is that, so if we as a board, Mr. Chair, if we as a board said, as a condition, they have to bring all the roads in Pogus Woods up to the finished code, it would be the current residents up there that would pay for that?
Not if it was a condition of the approval of Langley Cove.
Okay.
If it was explicitly stated that the developer has to pay for it, I would say that condition means the developer has to pay for it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The staff person.
Oh,
she-
okay.
She's quite away from her mic.
Yeah, that one doesn't work. If it was explicitly stated in the condition, which the board should make sure to do if you make a condition for any kind of requirement for repairs, that the developer is to bear that cost, then that would be considered, like we've been talking about, an off-site improvement.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, otherwise, it's gonna occur when Phase 3 is done.
If Phase 3
Phase two is
done.
the additional 50 units or
Well,
whatever
with the
it
next
is.
phase, whatever, it's 2 or 3, I don't.
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, and I made this clear, if paving all of Pogus Woods is a condition of the Langley approval, we will seek assistance from the court on that.
Of course you will, I know that.
This thing's going to
I
court
have to
anyway.
state the obvious. I've been doing this for so long, and I keep saying the same thing every month. I have to keep doing it.
So guys,
That's
these
great.
guys aren't going anywhere, so why don't we go to the public hearing and then you can resume your argument with them after.
Just, if I
Is there a
may,
question?
We got a
One more
question over here from the board member. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
I didn't have a question. I don't know. Can I say something? I'm an
Yes, sir.
alternate.
Sure.
I just, looking from the outside, I kind of have some heartburn with this because I have a feeling that if we look at it as two different developers, we wouldn't be going here. You wouldn't tell my neighbor that he has to maintain my driveway in the future, just so he can put a shed in the wetlands or something like that. And I think we're getting caught into this whole thing because the top of the tree is Brady Sullivan. And even though the two projects are different people that fall underneath them, we're trying to strong-arm them to say, hey, if you want approval for this one, we want you to make this better, that you didn't do or whatever. But from what they're saying, they're living up to what was approved for Pogus Woods. They have done it. Now, for them, or for the planning, I don't know what has changed since Pogus Woods was approved till now. But if I was a developer, I would try to do Langley Cove in phases like Pogus Woods was done. So I wouldn't have to worry about the access until 25 years from
It
now.
is phased, and we won't need access until 50 units. So it is phased. 7 phases, John? Yes. 7 phases.
Right, so and if it's not going forward like Pogus Woods has stalled, then
And that's exactly why I don't want to have to pave a road in Pogus on September 1st of 19, when the 50th unit in Langley might be 2, 3, 4 years after that.
right, and I think it's good of them because they kind of do oversee both projects to offer to go in and fix the potholes now that are in there, but to ask them to maintain those roads that aren't even in their development possibly, if they sell it or whatever. Who wants to buy a development further down the road if they want to sell? When you have these attachments that you have to maintain other areas. That's just my view from the outside.
Well, thank you for that, Mr.
Mr.
Bellamy.
Chairman, before we go
Sure.
outside, Mark still has another issue to address with regards to the bonding requirements.
Well, that's
We
on-
did some math, but I would like to address, if I may,
That-
your statement that what if the roads are never done in Pogus Woods? Of course, what the reality is that to go into the next phase, you have to do certain things conditioned on the Pogus Wood approval. So if you were to follow the statement to its logical conclusion, and how would someone get out of that responsibility? They'd have to not develop 50 units. Now, where does that make economic sense? Have you talked to realtors? There's nothing to sell. Everything's gone. There's no inventory. It's the perfect storm. I'm not economist, God forbid. But that's the reality. So we're all operating in the real world. And the real world is that housing is needed. Brady Sullivan is operating from a capitalistic profit motivation. So they're going to continue it, and they're going to have to live up to the conditions of Paugus Wood, which this board set. We're just, again, playing by the same set of rules. They're not trying to shirk their responsibilities. And to answer, I believe, Charlie's question, well, what if in that phase of Paugus Woods, the roads are broken up? Okay? Well, under the common law, the guys that break up that road are legally responsible.
Well, that's not what I was asking. I was asking if they just fall
Well,
apart.
maybe that was David. Maybe I pinned
Maybe.
that on David, but
Because I
I'm
was
sorry.
asking about just wear and tear, which apparently has happened now with the potholes, that I'm not sure everybody, maybe everybody at this table has been up there to see the size of those holes, but that's what I was questioning. If those happen on one of these other streets here, maybe Siesta Way or something like that, that's all.
I understand. I didn't go up there, but I understand from Dean, what Dean said, it's this 375-foot strip, which admittedly, the fire department says we can get up there now.
They can get
but-
up there anyway.
Yeah,
Sure.
but Brady Sullivan is willing to fix that, to make it safe for passage, to meet that criteria. And when Paugus Woods is either developed out to its max by Brady Sullivan or someone else, they're gonna have to put the top coat on the roads, they're gonna have to fix the binder coat, shim it or whatever, so that it can receive the finished coat, and there's money set aside, there's money with the city to protect the Paugus Wood residents. Do I have that about right?
That's right, you're absolutely right.
How long ago did Brady Sullivan buy that property, Paugus Woods?
About 9 years ago, 8 years ago.
I believe from a developer that was going,
Yeah, the
I did-
developer,
9 years ago, that's
right,
9
developer
years.
became insolvent. Brady Sullivan,
guardian angel.
inherited this, and inherited,
Charlie,
people
gotta
are-
think of angels.
Yes,
people are unhappy with the common area expenses and whatnot. We didn't create that. This is a cluster subdivision that was created under a Laconia ordinance that Brady Sullivan stepped into and took over.
I would love to
So-
see Brady Sullivan be a guardian angel and jump through a few hoops up there. I'm not, Brady's got a big investment here, I get that. I'm just saying that it'd be nice to just say, you know what, we don't have to be told to fix these holes, we don't have to wait till somebody brings us up and look at this, but actually have this third party or second party construction company say, hey man, we got a problem up here with some roads, we wanna get in here and tighten this up. That to me, that's a guardian angel, that goes in there and fixes that. I get the whole development thing, but I'm just looking at the basic wear and tear up there. And I don't think that's a hardship. I don't think this board is putting a hardship, or residents will be putting a hardship, or the department over here, by saying, wow, this is pretty bad. You don't want your roads to look like they do the rest of the city. How about that? How about that, Dean, there? Okay, so, that's what I'm thinking would make a lot of people happy. Just something simple like that. That's all.
But haven't we asked them to already jump through a bunch of hoops to satisfy other claims that we've had?
I rely on the planning department, who knows a lot more about a lot of the regulations and things like that, to set those regulations or those requirements. That being said, I knew nothing about, I was totally oblivious to the actual layout of that property up there where this development is gonna go. And I have to tip my hat to Brady Sullivan and John Roque over there, to be able to say that they can do that kind of development on that terrain. I've never seen terrain like that along Weirs Boulevard before. So they've gotta have a lot of regulations so that when it pours
Oh,
rain,
no,
it doesn't
I
all go down
understand
there. So,
that. What I'm saying is, we keep asking them to do this and we'll be satisfied.
Well,
We do
I
this-
don't-
You do this, we'll be satisfied. We do, you do this, we'll be
well,
satisfied.
I haven't heard anybody
Okay,
on
so
the thing, just say one thing at a
I
time.
want to reel this in right now, if
Okay.
I can. What we're having is a spirited debate, which is, should be reserved, I think, to when we have some motion pending or otherwise. We need to let Mr. Pernard finish his presentation.
Yeah, so we're talking Pogus right now. There are two applications. There's Pogus and Langley. I've given you my comments on the Pogus matters. I can give you my comments on Langley, or you can finish Pogus and then go to Langley. I only have a couple of points on Langley.
Sure.
If you want to hear them now.
Sure.
So in the Langley conditions of approval, there's a recommendation that the site improvement security be paid by January 8th of 2019. This condition it's unduly burdensome, and it's unreasonable. The site security for Langley is going to be a tremendous amount of money, and there are 7 phases, and I think Dean emailed me today saying that he's willing to change his recommendation on this one, but we can't be asked to put up millions of dollars in site security in January of next year when we've been over 10 years in the planning process here, and getting this project underway to build it out is going to take a significant amount of time to get bids, to get contracts in place. And our request on the site security is that, 30 days before the commencement of a phase, the site security for that phase only be posted. The reason for site security is to make sure that the city is protected in the event that the developer doesn't come through and complete work that needs to be completed. So as long as the site security for a phase is posted immediately prior to the commencement of that phase, then the city's protected and the developer's not unduly burdened. The way the condition is written now, Brady Sullivan has to put up millions of dollars for something it may or may not build over a period of many years.
Quick math, something just south of $40 million.
That's a
So-
bond, though, right? Is that-
Bond.
Right.
But
So what's
all
the
of these-
premium on the bond?
Well, not always. A lot of times you gotta do letter of credit, which has gotta be fully collateralized, and a lot of times bonds are not acceptable. The other thing is, think of South Down Shores. I'm not a local person, but
Right.
imagine if back when that started, the entire site security into perpetuity had to be posted at that time. That would have been prohibitive, and frankly, if this is a condition of this approval, it's like giving us an approval and then making it financially unfeasible to perform. So it is essential that the Langley site security be posted by phase prior to commencement, but certainly not on an arbitrary date that has nothing to do with any shovel going into the ground. In the Langley conditions, the Pogus Road requirements are mirrored. So we would ask that the same changes we want in the Pogus conditions regarding the Pogus roads be mirrored in the Langley conditions of approval. I talked to Dean about having the ability to selectively open views from the Langley project. We don't want to do clear cutting, but we want to be able to do some cutting to open some views up there. This project has become terribly expensive. We're at $3 million right now. 10 years into it, we've accomplished nothing other than supporting John and his family. And, yeah, and
A
Bill.
noble cause, of course.
It is. So I would like there to be a written acknowledgement that we can do some selective cutting to open up some views up there. It has to be in writing because memories are short, and if it's not in there, then, a couple of years from now, when we go to cut down a tree, somebody's going to say that we don't have permission to do that. And again, it can be written in a way that prohibits clear cutting. It would prohibit anything that could deal with creating erosion problems. But it's important that we be able to open up some views up there. Dean and I discussed it, and he seems to be okay with that. Just want to have that in writing. And that's it for Langley. We're okay with everything else there. We just want to be treated fairly and equitably.
With the condition of cutting, would you be acceptable to have a conservation commissioner person there so that they can tag trees, so that we know which ones are being cut, which ones are being saved?
Like a forester or something?
Yeah,
or a
I'm not
third party or
entirely
someone.
against that. What I want to do is avoid kind of a committee situation here. What I don't want to have is I don't want to have an ability to clear cut. What I want to make sure is that we do this in an orderly and reasonable fashion, and it just shouldn't be over bureaucratized. That's my only concern here.
I'm not concerned about a committee. I'd like one other person to make the help assist in making the determination.
Yeah, I
It's
think
not
that,
what doesn't.
I think that would be reasonable.
Okay.
We're not going to be taking out stumps, so there would be a cut, and the stump would remain, so it's not going to affect the erosion. So I think that's an important part of this. But having somebody who's reasonable,
Had a cutting situation at one of the developments where they overcut.
yeah.
Right.
And I'm not saying it was
You know,
Brady Sullivan,
and-
I'm just saying we had that issue, and it would have been better if we,
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Before
One
then.
person, not,
not a committee.
not a committee. And again, I think the point was well made, that I think Brady Sullivan is being treated a little differently than other developers here. We're just asking to be treated fairly, to be treated like everyone else, and to give us a fair shot at this so that it's economically viable project.
So, in questions about the date that you want for site improvement security, are you asking for no date, or you?
It would be, in my view, 30 days before commencement
Of work?
of work. So, there's going to be pre-construction meetings, and there's going to be a whole series of events that occur before anything happens here. I simply would like the site security to be posted. I think 30 days before commencement is fine, or,
And you're going to
maybe,
discuss with the planning and the finance department on whether it's going to be a bond or a letter of credit or whatever?
yeah, we prefer bonds because we can do a premium as opposed to cash collateral for the whole thing. So whenever we are able to do a bond, that's our preference.
Yeah, I think the city standard, though, is that we don't take bonds anymore. We know, what happens in the future, but as of this moment, my understanding is that we.
They're not taking bonds anymore?
Well, maybe it could be written that it would be based on the city's standard at that time, because this sounds like it's something that may change from time to time. So based upon site security standard at the time of the requirement for the site security. If it's all cash collateral and the whole site security has got to be put up by January of 19, that basically makes this impossible, not feasible, and it would be tantamount to giving us an approval, but then making it financially impossible to develop it.
If we decide to give you the 30 days, I just want to make sure that you coordinate with planning and coordinate with finance on what you're going to need.
We will do that, and, this is something we are happy to work with the city on and make sure it's done in an orderly manner.
So if the whichever is sooner language was struck, you'd be okay with that?
Yeah, I just want to take out these arbitrary dates, and I want to have it based upon a reasonable requirement, and I think 30 days ahead of the work makes sense.
Okay.
Each phase, yeah, by phase, so, but, that's kind of implied.
You said there were 7
So we just take off the
phases?
January 8, 2019 language
Yes.
and fashion it to the securities determined by the phase.
Right, yeah, at 1A on page 4 of 13B, it says site improvement security, January 8th, 19, or 1 month before start of work. So just take out the date, make it 1 month before start of work, take out whichever is sooner, and then we'll coordinate with them. By doing it that way, it's implied that it will be by phase, because you're not gonna work on phase 7 before you work on phase 1.
We can add by phase.
Yeah, that would be good.
And excuse me, again, it's 7 phases?
7.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
I
Bernard.
reserve my right to return if needed.
So noted. So we open the public hearing at 7:46 PM. Are there any members of the public that wish to be heard regarding either of these? Can we do a combined public hearing? Either of these two applications? Now, remember, there's Paugus Woods and there's Langley Cove. I think it's obvious that the two are inextricably entwined, so.
Correct.
So
Dennis
please
Peterson,
step
six-
up,
six
identify
Palmetto
yourself.
Lane.
Say, identify yourself. I'm sorry, I was speaking.
Dennis
right over you.
Peterson, 6 Palmetto Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
I know there's some new people on the board here, and I hope you've gone into YouTube and looked up the meetings that started last year, and get a little bit of history about it. You mentioned you felt people were being strong-armed, or the developer was being strong-armed. I don't question your strong-arming, but maybe you should take a look at the thing and see who's getting strong-armed, okay, before you make that comment. First of all, we don't own the land, property on Paugus Woods. Brady Sullivan owns the property. The road that they're proposing with the gate is their property. We don't, it's not hard top, well, it is hard top now, going up the hill where the road's gonna go. But the only one that's gonna really benefit by that road is gonna be Langley Cove, not us. Because you know yourself that we know they're never gonna probably finish this Paugus Woods. You know, I gave him the respect and quiet, but I guess he's not gonna do the same for me. When they say that in the near future to fix those potholes, I contacted them over a year ago. I have a spot at the side of my yard where the hydrant is, and if you're familiar, they hud top to the hydrant. That's sunk, water comes in, floods. I have 2 sandbags here, if you've been up there, to block the water from coming in. I've been told since last July that they're getting estimates. They had the town, they blamed the city, they said the city was responsible for it. The city came out and said, no, we're not responsible for it. Brady Sullivan's responsible for it. So I've been waiting a year for them to get a quote for hot top on that. Still hasn't happened. I still call them once a month, send it to the Beth Gardner, I believe her name is, and she keeps telling me that they're looking for bids. So I don't know how long it takes to get a bid. But I'd like, if they're gonna fix those potholes, I'd like a definitive date, if the board could put that in part of their, what do you call it, conditions. I appreciate the conditions that the board put in here. And if anyone that's sat here since the beginning can appreciate what you've done. I know it's a volunteer job. I know you're not gonna make everybody happy, myself or the developer or anybody else, but I appreciate that you've made these conditions in there now. And because I think the people of Paugus Woods have been really given a raw deal on the whole development there since the start. And it was a previous planning board, just like yourself, that set conditions up there that made a mess up there. I wish I could trust, I wish I could respect, I wish I could sit down with Brady Sullivan and talk to them man to man, but that never happens. So I think we could have got a lot more done if we went face to face and talked about it. And, you know, I could have had his arguments, he could have heard mine, but that never happened. I just want, we're just looking for our peace and quiet up there. I appreciate the gate. The gate's a great thing. It's a good compromise, I think. Originally we came in here, we wanted the original road that goes through the wetlands and everything else. So, I mean, I think most people here are willing to accept the gate for emergency access only. But as far as the hot top of the road goes, where is it in writing that they're gonna hot top the road? I don't see it anywhere in any of the conditions. I mean, so they walk away from our development up there, what's gonna happen? Nothing, probably. We'll be still sitting there with potholes and everything else. If you go around Siesta up by where they messed up the sewer system up there, that road's all patched. It's hilly and bumpy. If you come down those roads in the winter, they're not in good shape. I'm not saying they're impassable, but they're in poor shape for a development that's only, 8 years old, 10 years old. It shouldn't be like that. This should have been corrected in the original conditions when the Paugus Woods was developed. And we just want the right thing that's done. I don't think it's a big responsibility to have Langley Cove be responsible for the other side of the gate. A maintenance guy can get a key and just open the gate and cut it and go back in the other way. I mean, that's not a big deal as far as I'm concerned. If that's what's gonna, if you're being threatened to take to court, then take it to court. Don't be intimidated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Were there any questions for Mr. Peterson from the board?
Well, Mr. Peterson, I just wondered, do people in Paugus Woods really care if it gets developed, the rest of it? Are you happy with your 45 homes there now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're happy with the homes, we're not happy with the conditions.
I understand
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but you know Brady Sullivan will never pave the roads unless they absolutely have to when they sell more units.
Correct.
Do the people in Paugus Woods care if anybody buys more units?
Yes. I brought friends up that wanted to buy property and was told that they're not building anymore.
Right. Because if they build more, they have to pave the roads. So they don't want to sell anymore. They're in a standstill.
That's not true. I think, I was told originally that they had to develop so many units, or after 10 years, they had to hot top. That's what I was told originally. And now I find out that's not in writing anywhere. But that was originally told to me, so I don't know where that went.
I just have one question. The sandbags, can you explain that a little more?
The water, because of the pitch of the road, the water comes down, and where it sank, where the hydrant is, when it rains, the water comes in and floods the side of my yard.
So the sandbags are right on the edge of the road, or?
Right on the edge of the road, they've been there for a year. Take it right up there.
To divert the water off your property.
Divert the water off my property, correct.
Is that drainage issue what caused the hole in the road?
Not on that side. On the other side, it was, my end of my driveway's all sunk because of the, that's on the drainage side. On that side, this is just because the elevation has dropped. The whole ground is sunk right in.
Oh, okay.
I think it's- And now the water comes down, instead of going to the drain, it goes into the yard.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
So just on that point, part of what Dean has proposed in the conditions is the 375-foot paving repair and 3 areas, I believe, that have got to be repaired, including your spot.
We'll hear from the staff after
It's
the
all
public
baked in.
hearing. Thank you.
the only thing I'm asking of that, and if he's gonna do it, if they are gonna do it, I just like a definitive date, by, it's gonna be done by this time. So,
Understand.
That's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to be heard?
My name is Peter Spinney, and I live at 8 Siesta Lane in Paugus Woods. Tonight's the first I've heard that we're going to be billed to fix the binder because they haven't put the final top coat on. That's not my understanding what we should be responsible for. Once the roads have been approved and finalized, then it's our responsibility. The only reason they're not finishing them is because they want to sell more lots and to expand. At least that's the theory. Well, we're not gonna get a final coat. How long is, I don't know, how long is a binder supposed to be sufficient? Anybody know? It's been 10 years now, right? 8 to 10 years? If they're not gonna do any further development, we don't expect to see a final coating. So how long is a binder? And now the binder's crumbling and I have to pay for it and the rest of the residents because they didn't put the final coat on yet? Doesn't make sense. I've never heard that before. I've lived in other developments, that's never been a condition where the maintenance goes on the homeowners for a binder. And I just want to express that, because you may get that happening when they go ahead and build 291 more. There's big problems when they get into phases and they don't proceed to go to the next phase.
So, can I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Thank you. So you're saying that, how long have you lived up there?
I've lived there 6 years.
So you must have looked at a lot of paperwork, I'm assuming, when you did. So you're saying that there's nothing there that states that you guys would be responsible for repairs to the road now in its current condition without the finish coat?
There's nothing in, he's lumping it into maintenance. Well, I don't know why we'd be maintaining a binder.
Does that make sense, what he's saying?
I think what he's saying is that it was his understanding that the homeowners association wouldn't be responsible for maintenance until the roads were completed. There's only a base coat there now. So.
Except for one hill. That's perfect.
Right, right. And so, and I think that what the developer's saying is, no, that, it's not right.
So the developer's disagreeing with what this resident says?
Well, he's saying that he'd never heard the developer say that the homeowners would have to pay to, I think I heard Mr. Bernard say that the homeowners would have to pay to put the finish coat on. And that isn't what the,
I didn't hear that.
No, I didn't hear that either.
just paid to improve the base coat? No. To repair it?
What I said was, it was in a broader context of why aren't certain things getting done? Why are people unhappy? It's common land, it's common expenses, and when you do something to try to keep your fees down, it's difficult to spend money and then pass it on to the residents. So we're kind of mixing things together here, but we're fine with a condition to repair, to fix that stretch of road, grind it, repave it with base. Again, Dean will tell you what the condition of the rest of the roads in that subdivision are. In terms of the fixing of the potholes, I personally see it as a maintenance issue. We'll look at the subdivision documents and determine if that's the case. But the fact that those potholes exist isn't because of construction, it's not because of development, it's because.
Because it's a base.
The base.
Because it's a base. You must agree with
I
that.
don't know if you're a paving expert, but
Oh,
I
no,
don't think
I'm an expert riding on roads, and I know that a road falls apart when it's base.
Well, I've driven down your roads through the city that
They're
have top coat,
terrible.
and they're a mess.
Absolutely.
They're a lot worse than what Dean will tell you about
I
the roads that
couldn't
fall.
agree more with you
Okay,
on that.
So whether it's base or top coat, roads fall apart. It's New England. There's things called frost heaves.
Well, wait, no.
Yeah.
Okay, again, I'm just saying that you got a base coat, we talked about this a few minutes ago, and then we got the finished product.
Right.
This is not a finished product up there, so that's all, I'll let it go with that.
But
I'm
my
just-
point is, you need to take a ride up there.
I did, I was up there today.
So you've seen the condition of
I
all
have,
those roads.
absolutely, every road, I went over it
Okay.
3 times
So
today.
if base coat is such a bad thing, why aren't the rest of the roads in that development destroyed? If base is so bad?
Well, I agree with the previous,
Give it 2 more years on our section, and it will probably be looking like down below.
yeah, again,
But my point is, if you were
Counselor,
there
I'm just saying,
today,
that-
if you were there today, you know
I
what
was.
those roads look like.
I do.
They're fine, except for one area.
Well, again.
And I don't know that that's because it's base. If base is the problem, then logically, that means all of those roads should be destroyed, but they're not. So to conclude that it's because it's base is a fallacious argument.
Well, that may be in your opinion, but
No,
not in
it's
mine.
gotta be true, because if base is the problem, why are they all fine?
I would let a
Maybe it's
jury decide
drainage.
that.
Well-
So,
Okay.
It's drainage, because that's wet. The puddles, they have water in them when you were there today. Most of them have mud in them. So I just want to ask my question.
Sure.
How long as a base are we expected to wait for a final coat in August Woods?
Until they sell more units.
Exactly. They have to sell 50 more units.
yeah, which obviously.
Well, 50 units total.
They have to, yes, once you get to 50 units, then.
Okay, well,
right?
they generously gave you one of our units is available for sale. That means we're gonna be delayed,
They
right?
didn't give it to us. They gave
Well,
up a unit so
They
that they
want-
could,
They wanna
They
take
could
one
have
of our
developed it
units
for a
away.
different purpose.
Right.
But Brady Sullivan own all the other unsold lots?
Yeah, and Brady Sullivan wants, just so there's no confusion, Brady Sullivan wants to develop all the lots because that's how you make money.
Right.
So when you buy a subdivision, you don't buy it to build half of them. You buy it to build all of them because you don't make profit until the end.
Sure.
So the point somebody made about we're not gonna develop those lots and we're never gonna finish the roads, that's another fallacious argument that's got nothing to do with why you buy these things and why you develop them. You don't buy them not to develop them.
Right, and the purpose of a public hearing, though, is for people to air their fears, whether they're reasonable or not, or rational or not. And some of the fears are that Brady Sullivan isn't going to keep their word. So that's why we're having a public hearing tonight. That's why we take into consideration what the public is saying. I know you have an argument in favor of your position that's well thought out, and you're very eloquent in presenting it, but there's still a matter of debate here.
And respectfully, Dean and his staff have come up with a laundry list of conditions. So we get it. Nobody likes Brady Sullivan. We're the evil empire and I'm the dark lord.
Oh, I think you need counseling, if that's what you
I
think.
get all that. But when you come into a room and everybody picks on you, you get to feel that way.
Well-
But the point is, the staff has taken care of that. They've said, these are the conditions, and if you don't comply with the conditions, you're gonna pay millions of dollars to have us finish it for you. So this has been conditioned to death.
You know, I keep hearing that, you know, Brady Sullivan's, and I've heard the same thing, they're not planning to finish, they're not planning to finish. Why would they be here for a subdivision? So they can spend $3-4 million to not build something else? So I find it hard to believe that they're not someone at Brady Sullivan is just interested in throwing a bunch of money away. I think, if I understand it right, the reason Paugus hasn't expanded was because they've been working on this Langley Cove, trying to tie them together, because that was their understanding for the last 10 years. So they're trying to put this thing together so they can finish both these subdivisions and build 340 houses. That would be the logical thing to do in this market right now.
Correct.
I guess that needs to be said, too, absolutely.
Well, I just want to get back to the fact that I had not heard before that we would be assessed for a maintenance of a binder.
Well, I think that's a good question that you need to address to the developer or to staff, but at this point, this board can't answer that question. We don't know why, if indeed it's true that they've never said that before, or what they actually meant by what they said today.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Are there any other members of the public that wish to be heard on either of these, or both? Yes, sir.
Hi, folks. Paul Wheaton, 537 Weirs Boulevard. Welcome to the new folks. I just had a couple of points. I think we're really nearing the end of this long journey that some of us have been on since the beginning, some contentious, some smooth. I understand, and we all understand, when you make a decision, we're all Laconia residents, we're gonna live with what the word comes down.
Wait a minute, when were the smooth parts?
When you weren't here. No offense, dear. So I just wanted to make sure I got a chance, because I think this is probably gonna be our last meeting, maybe another one, I doubt it. I just wanted to make sure some of the changes I didn't see in this new plan that we had agreed to earlier, John, are still in there. The retention bunker that's moved between 537 and 559, the trees, all that stuff that we agreed on, that you were very kind to move, and I appreciate that. Another question, the abutters, there's internal abutters that we really will have no way to get to our homes during phase 1 of Langley Cove project. And great discussion was had about giving us a road for fire personnel. I have an older couple that lives behind me. We need access 24/7. That should be stipulated in before the original roadway is dismantled, is that correct?
There definitely is a condition in there somewhere.
Looking for it.
Okay, yep, I'm just checking. I'd ask if these internal abutters, the three of us that are gonna, change our address, and, you know my history, we've been coming in and out of this since the early 50s. we need to join the Langley Cove Association and be responsible for all those roads in there?
No.
I was told no at the original, I'm just checking.
You're not part of that community.
Okay, all right.
You're just getting some new roads.
Thank you. I would ask,
It's such a big deal.
some of you that haven't been here for some of the earlier discussions and such, I mean, it really stems around this very difficult project. Langley Cove is not an easy project by anybody's imagination, and we've heard terms such as creative engineering. They're dealing with steeps up there, and that's the reason why they failed oh so long ago, was because of the area they're trying to develop. Very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So you really, please, folks, you need to be hearing these folks from Paugus Woods, forget the dang road and stuff, about this gate and stuff. The drainage issues they've been dealing with, and that terrain is nothing like this Langley Cove property they're gonna develop. And the drainage wasn't done right on that piece. And you have your heart in the fact that they're gonna do it right on this steep piece. Let me ask you, how many here on the board that will be voting this evening have actually physically visited the site?
No, you're talking about Langley Cove.
I'm talking Langley Cove right now, yeah, I'm Paugus Woods to death so far, I'm trying to get back to Langley Cove piece. So some of you have, great. How many, like once, twice, you get a good feel for what's up there? It's a tough job. Not that it can't be done, I mean, I'm more than confident in John's engineering, believe you me, but it's a big task that the town is opening itself up for should things not go right, like they haven't gone right before. So it's a big decision. I just hope you take time and think about it. I mean, really. We're all sick of coming to these, you're sick of hearing the same complaints all the time, but we gotta think of the Laconia residents' future, and then we live with what you decide on. I did have one question on page 7 of 13 on the Langley Cove. And it's on number 6. I've just got a question, and I think it's more from my neighbors than myself, but I'm wondering what this means. In number 6, it says, changes to the roadway on Weirs Boulevard, including modifications to the stormwater drainage system and the increase of pervious materials will result in the need for vegetative swale. What is being installed across from the west side of that entrance? What is that referring to?
Where are you?
I am on page 7 of 13 of the Langley Cove.
Which number?
Number 6. Just wondering what that vegetative swale
Which
BMP.
6, at the top or the bottom?
Top.
And is this over by the Capri?
Oh, okay, yes.
Going?
It's basically across from,
The entrance.
almost the entrance to the Tilton property.
Langley Cove, Langley Brook Road.
Between the bridge and
And the Capri condos?
the parking lot that is, the Tilton's parking lot that's on the side of the road, so in that area there. There's
But
going to
it'll
be.
be on the same side of the road as Langley Cove's?
No, it's on the opposite side.
Okay, so
It's
it's
on the
on-
lake side.
Okay.
It's gonna be a rain garden to
Okay.
catch the additional
Okay, yep.
storm
No,
drainage
just-
off of the
I wanna
extra
know what it
pavement.
was.
Yeah.
Now, it says vegetative, we're on a corner there, you know, we've had the traffic guy here before, visibility's an issue down there, I was just concerned what
It'll
that
be
was.
low vegetation. It's a rain garden. It'll be low bushes and
Yep.
those kinds of things.
Okay. Well, folks, it's been a long journey, and some of us are still gonna keep living it and live with the decision you all make. Please think about why it didn't pass the last time because of the steeps. Think about the tree cutting they're gonna be doing up there. There was a provision in the old plan that they wouldn't be doing a lot of cutting down by there, and that's gone away. There's been a lot of changes to this plan. Trying to keep our Ts crossed and Is dotted is not easy. So it's a decision a lot of people are gonna have to live with, and we will live with it, but think long and hard. Don't just come here to cast a vote and be gone, folks, because we're not going anywhere. So please do your due diligence. And we do appreciate your time. We really do. Even though we got our complaints, we understand. You know, we're all doing the best we can. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Mr. Whedon. Could you give me your address, please?
537 Weirs Boulevard.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sure.
My name is Rich Tiltons, 591 Weirs Boulevard, 612 Weirs Boulevard, Resort in the Bay. And I just wanted to clear up the stormwater structure that was just discussed. My family would like to design and implement that structure on our own. So we currently have an engineer looking at the property, the slopes, and I just wanted to make that part of this.
So that stormwater structure would be is proposed to be on your property, is that what?
Yes, just across the street. We've actually put one on 591 Weirs Boulevard. We just finished it this year. It's about a $50,000 project. And we would like to manage the one across the street. My house, where I am, I look at it. So I would like to take responsibility financially for it. We have a design engineer working on it as we speak, so.
So we could remove this condition from,
My family is committed to taking care of that.
all right, very good. Thank you, Rich.
Well, thank you.
Wait a minute. So,
We've been working on this for months.
okay, so you're gonna take over the cost that originally was gonna go to Brady Sullivan?
He wants to do that.
Is that, I just heard that though.
We have, there's, when you look at, my family's been there since
No,
1954. And, I'm proud of our property, but there's a lot of problems going on in the bay. And we're, as a family, stepping up to make sure that we have invested and improved in our property. And we encourage our neighbors and everybody else, to do the same. The lake is everybody's to use. It's public drinking water. It's a city water supply. It's gone downhill. Everything from fertilizers on people's front yards. I don't want to change the topic tonight, but there's a lot of issues around the lake. And my family wants to take that and commit to doing it.
So I just wanna be clear on it. So that's a project that Brady Sullivan was originally gonna be responsible for?
It's
There wa-
part,
it-
It's
There
part
was a
of their-
need for additional drainage treatment.
Right. So,
And originally it was proposed for, be part of when they do the road improvements.
right.
it's
And
a
in the course of
semi-natural
that-
area that it's designed.
I understand, but there was
Right.
money involved. That's all I'm trying to get to.
There's money involved, and my family is gonna.
Okay, right. So we're talking, you said, what, $50,000 project?
I don't have the design
20,000, whatever it is.
done yet.
That's great news because, and I don't want any laughing on this, I'm dead serious, because there's a chance for Brady Sullivan to say, hey, I got some extra money here, maybe we'll fix some of those potholes. You guys are laughing, but I'm serious here. Here's an opportunity to say, hey, we're saving you some money on this, thanks to this gentleman here, and now you got a little extra money for that, that's all.
They can also let the city do the 1,900 feet of water line and put that money.
We're not.
Well, I
we're
can
not
talk
looking
about that
for-
too if you
We're
want.
not looking
Okay,
for
okay,
money.
it's a public hearing here.
We're not looking for money. We're just looking to make sure that we do our part. It's not. It just we want to take ownership of it. That's what we'd like to do. So.
Thank you.
It's the front
Thank you,
porch
Mr.
award.
Tilton. You got any interest in taking over the roads up there, or?
That's an honorable thing.
Okay, thank you very much. Charlie, I think it's safe to say that, we all have an interest in making sure they get this drainage thing right, because I drink the water that comes out of that Paugus Bay, as we all do, those of us on city water. So, are there any other members of the public that would like to be heard?
Come on up.
Come on up. Come on down. Whatever. You say it. I'm not gonna say it.
Hi, my name is Arlene Willett. I live at 62 Sarasota Lane, August Woods. And I just have a question. They're saying if this gate's put in and so forth, that August Woods is gonna be responsible for part of it, and Langley Cove is gonna be responsible for the second part. Now, how are they gonna do this? Are they gonna synchronize with each other as to when this is being done, the grass and the plowing and so forth? God forbid if an ambulance has to get in there and they can only go so far because Langley Cove hasn't done their share of cleaning the snow or whatever. I mean, that's ridiculous, that two people are gonna be cleaning the same pathway for ambulances or fire trucks or whatever. They get there and the plowing hasn't been done by one group or the other group. That's absurd. That's crazy. So, I mean, people could die because they couldn't get through that passageway. So that's just one thing that I wanted to say. And when we moved in there, we moved in in March of 2010. And we were told that the development was gonna continue and so forth. And once it was all done, there was gonna be a clubhouse, and the whole development was gonna be done and so forth. And then we were told that that's not gonna happen. So the money that was going to be for our clubhouse, where is the money? Is it in escrow? So when we take over this property, that we'll have some funds to go back to? Because the clubhouse is never gonna be built, and to be honest with you, Paugus Woods is never gonna be other than what it is now. And with that in mind, the road should be done permanently. And where Dennis is having so much trouble with his lot because of poor drainage and sinkage of roads and so forth, I mean, all these things have to be considered. I mean, we're human beings. These are our retirement homes. We put all our money that we worked so hard for all our lives into these homes and trusted Brady Sullivan to do what was told to us. And it's not happening. So please consider all of this, because everything that they're saying is not a fact and is not truthful, and they could care less about us little common folk. They just want to do what they want to do, and they don't care who they step on to do it. So please, think twice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLeod.
If I could, on the clubhouse issue?
Sure.
The clubhouse is part of the conditions of approval of Paugus. So it's in the subdivision documents. The clubhouse will be built at the time that the approvals require that. It's later in the project because an amenity of that nature costs money to support. So you do the amenity at the end when you have more people paying into it, as opposed to it early on when you have fewer people paying in to support it.
Right.
That's based upon how it was approved.
That's total BS. And everything that he says, you can't believe it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Tom Miller, 27 Siesta Lane, Laconia,
Mr. Miller?
Paugus Woods. Mr. Pinard argued that Langley Cove is one builder, Paugus Woods is another builder. Yet he stood here and argued from Brady Sullivan for Langley Cove and for Paugus Woods. So don't take their consideration of, oh, one is one builder and one is the other builder. It's one builder. That's all that's there. They may put it under two different names, but he's arguing from one point of view for both of them. And as far as two little potholes to be filled is an insult. And to turn around and say, you have to pay for it when we didn't create the situation to begin with. We didn't put that in there. And if you go up to Paugus Woods and you look at the roads, yeah, the roads have been repaired. Look at the big sections that have been cut out and repaired because it was done poorly. And that's been over the years. You can go up there in some of the sections where they put them together and you can step on one and the other and they move. This is your great subbase. The reason they have to jump through hoops is because they've been poor people to deal with. Their quality of work sometimes is very bad. What they're supposed to do is not always done. And I understand they're in to make a living. But it would be great if they would say, yeah, well, we stopped working on Paugus Woods because we couldn't reach the mark where we had to have a second access road. So that's why we're doing Langley. But yet they're telling you they're looking for a buyer for the other half. So they're looking to get out. What they do and drop the ball, and when they move out, I wouldn't trust them to see what they leave us with. And we have to live with this. And the reason they jump through hoops is because they have a track record that's not very good. And I never understood that about a builder. I would want my name to be at the top of the list, people dying to get into those developments, because I do everything I can for those people. Yeah, it may cost me a little bit more and I don't make that much profit, but I do it right. And I've always worked under 2 rules. Do it right the first time, or don't bother doing it at all, and do it as if it's in your house. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other members of the public wish to be heard on either of these proposals? That's okay.
Sandy Bedford, 14 Siesta Lane, Pogus Woods, of course. You may remember that about 5 months ago, I brought up to the board that there was some construction done on my home to fix a sewer line that was in need of repair at my neighbor's house, and they cut across both my front lawn and my driveway. And at the time, I said, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I've only been there 6 years, and a lot of people have been there a lot longer than I have. And in the beginning, when I had issues with my brand-new home, my home was new, nobody had lived in it when I moved into it too, they pretty much handled everything. I had some paint issues, some other things. It's always been done on a very, very friendly level between me and Brady Sullivan. So now we get to the point where my yard needs to be fixed. So I was asked to go out and get quotes to get my driveway repaved and to see what it would be. Well, because when they dug into my driveway, all that's on my driveway is that same top coat or base coat or whatever you want to call it that everybody else has. But I have a driveway like this. I have the 45-degree driveway, drive in and watch yourself drive through the garage door. So basically, it was never compacted. There's no drainage rock underneath. So I did. I sought out somebody and I got a quote for what it would cost to fix my driveway. Now, each and every one of the people in this room was assessed last year a special assessment because of the big dig. And part of that was $1,500 to re-top coat my driveway, which hasn't been done yet, okay? So I went to a reputable paver in Laconia. They looked at the pictures of the cut in my lawn, in my driveway, saw that there was no drainage. It's like that. My driveway is sinking in 4 places. In front of where my 2 cars go in, mine and my sister's, it has sunken that much. I actually have another area of my driveway that has sunken even deeper. Both me and my sister have bad knees. We have both tripped on it. It is a safety issue. So I asked for a quote. In order to redo my driveway properly, they have to dig down, put the gravel in, redo it, compact it, do the base coat, and then come back a year later and do the top coat. That would be a cost of probably around, I have an estimate if anybody would like to see it, it's a total of about $6,000. So I sent that to Brady Sullivan in good faith. Let's work this out. I'm an easygoing person. I don't like to be the person that goes to court. The answer I got back was, we will give you $1,500. If you want to do anything more than that, you will pay for it. So it speaks to the situation where what is promised and what's not promised, what is done and what's not done. I didn't ask them to dig my driveway. And I certainly don't think anyone in this room wants to pay their share of the $6,000 to fix my driveway, if Brady Sullivan were to do the right thing and fix my driveway properly. But now I've been offered $1,500, take it or leave it, and literally got an email back that said, we try to keep our prices low, we try to keep you guys' association fees low and your assessments low, and is it really fair to your neighbors that you should ask for more than what you need? Now, my lawn is wrecked too. I never asked them to fix my lawn. I probably spent over 180 hours last year. I could show you my excessive water bills. I could show you bills for the sod I bought. I actually spent all of last year rebuilding my own lawn myself. I never asked them for a penny for my lawn. All I want is my driveway fixed, because I really don't want to be in the middle of my driveway waxing my car and end up down in the dirt. They're not willing to do that. They're willing to give me $1,500 and that's it. And then they try to tell me, and really you should take that because it's mean for you to make your neighbors pay more than that. First off, it was a bad sewer problem that was not the fault of my neighbor. It's not his fault. He didn't build his own sewer system. So they came and fixed it and we all paid to have that sewer fixed. and we're all paying, or you all paid part of having my driveway, which isn't fixed yet, done. And I gotta tell you what, if they are nice and they agree to fix my driveway properly, you're all gonna pay part of that $6,000 to fix my driveway. So they talk about being fair and equitable. What is fair and equitable? Should they have not fixed my driveway properly? I didn't ask to have it dug up. And as a matter of fact, I was never even informed it would be dug up. I came home one day to find stakes in my yard and paint all over my yard, and had to be told by my neighbor, oh, by the way, they're digging your yard up tomorrow. No letter from Brady Sullivan saying, dear Miss Bedford, because of construction we need to do to fix the sewer, we're gonna cut the shit out of your lawn. My lawn is horrible. My driveway is horrible. I'm asking for them to fix it, and now I've only got one recourse, because they're not willing to give me more than $1,500. What have I gotta do? I gotta do what everyone else is doing. I'm going to have to take them to court. Okay, I'm gonna have to go to small claims court or something like that. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be that person that could get on the phone like he says, like Dennis says. I want to be that person that just get on the phone and sit down with you face to face, mano a mano, can we solve this? I asked them in my letter, email that I sent the other day, tell me what paving company you want. I'll go out and get a second quote. And if that paving company is willing to do it for $4,000, and I really want my person for $6,000, I'll pay the $2,000 difference. I've been as amenable as a person can get, and this is what I'm left with. And so I guess you people have to realize that you better make sure you put everything in writing that needs to be done, and dot your I's and cross your T's, because now look at the situation I'm in.
Ma'am, I have a question for you. Who constructed your driveway?
The driveway would have been built by Brady Sullivan originally.
Okay.
And then when they did the dig, the people who did the dig was, what's their name? Rowell. And Rowell redid the driveway. And believe it or not, that little 6-foot wide patch that they cut in my driveway is the only place in my driveway that's compacted, properly put down, and has pavement on it, but it's still collapsed because once you cut into something that's at that much of an angle, you've now loosened all the dirt in every direction, so that's why I'm sinking in front of my garage, I'm sinking at the bottom. My driveway's sinking everywhere.
I just wanted to be sure that this wasn't from the previous developer, that your home was
No,
built.
I was the last house built, by the way. I
Okay.
think the last or the second to last house built there.
How many years ago?
My house, I bought my house a year after it was built, I bought in 2012. I was the last house built in 2011.
Okay.
So that driveway would have been paved by whoever was in charge in 2011, and at that point, I would assume it was an entity of Brady Sullivan.
All the driveways are only that
Okay.
thick.
Huh?
All the driveways are only.
Yeah, I mean, if I show you a picture, that's how thick the pavement is on my driveway on a hill like that that was never compacted or with any proper drainage.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to be sure, be clear on that.
Thank you for your
Thank you, Mrs. Bedford. Are there any other members of the public?
Hi, my name's Carolyn Hodge. We're at 561 Weirs Boulevard with a little patch that's in the middle of the whole subdivision. I want you to think about those slopes because I drive the four-wheeler up there all the time. And we're talking about some serious curves that go up and right around our property, it crests right up that hill. It's really steep, it's really eroded. I'm glad I'm not joining a co-op or any of that stuff. I'm happy that I work with John Roque on a lot of the stuff, the concerns that we have. I'm concerned about the oil that's gonna run off from the cars, the sediment, all those right into Paugus Bay, which is our water source. We have a well up there. We're talking about switching to the town water. We've done a lot of stuff through this process. I've learned a lot of things. I'm still not comfortable with the whole thing. But whatever you decide to do, that's what we're gonna live with. I just hope you decide what's best for the city of Laconia. Okay?
Could I have your address, please?
561 Weirs Boulevard.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that wish to be heard? Any other members of the public wish to be heard on either Langley Cove or Paugus Woods? Going one more time. Any other members of the public that wish to be heard? Sensing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at, what time is it here? Oh, 8:31. Thank you very much for that. PM. Okay, so it's time for staff, I believe, to weigh in.
All right, so you have a, let's do Paugus Woods first. You have a multi-page staff recommendation. A lot of this is you have seen in previous months. The major change from last month to this month is surrounding the gate. And so we'll talk about that first. After the discussion at the last meeting, and I had several offline discussions with Mark Pernod primarily concerning the gate, and so it was up to us to try to put together what we would recommend to the board for recommendations for concerning the gate. So you have our recommendations, you have the counter recommendations on a couple of points from the applicant, and this is why you guys get paid the big bucks. You get to decide which way you want to go, or you want to split the baby in half, or whatever you want to do here. But when it comes to the maintenance of the road, we have seen a picture of the actual gate that's going to be used, but we haven't seen a plan of where the gate is. And I'm taking it from discussion tonight that the gate is going to be basically at the property line as opposed to one end or the other. Is that okay? So the gate will be at the property line. So that, as opposed to being, say, next to Palmetto or at the other end next to their development. So it may make, I'm not opposed to splitting the maintenance of the road either way. I mean, however the board wants to do it. We can do it the way we suggested originally, or you could split it up, which is what the applicant is asking you to do. And it amounts to the, our concern is the road gets maintained. The people will be out there plowing anyway. I don't see this as a big issue one way or the other.
Could you explain the rationale for the recommendations that's contained in our packet?
Because at the time, we were not sure where the gate was going to be. At the time, I was thinking the gate was going to be down near Palmetto, and therefore, it was more of a Langley Cove issue than a Paugus Wood issue. Concerning the date for repairing Palmetto Drive, I use September 1st of next year. The applicant called it arbitrary, and to some degree it was, but my thinking was that would give them 2 paving seasons, basically the rest of this paving season and most of next paving season to accomplish it. So it's not like something that had to be done within a couple of months. You know, there was some time to do it. If the potholes get fixed, I don't think it's, and it could be years before the access road is built. I don't think it's an issue one way or the other. Again, the board wants to remove the date and just say that it'll be done at the time of the access road. That's fine too. We would like to add in there, I think, that when the repaving occurs, that it's at the developer's expense. I think that we want to add that in there for wording, okay?
That when the paving,
When the repaving of Palmetto does occur, not the potholes, but the repaving does occur.
the base, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
the
the new
finish,
base or whatever, yeah,
the
yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
Be at the developer's expense, not the homeowners association.
Right.
Correct.
But that's
And
the
that-
finish coat.
Right,
Right.
yeah. Well, no, in this case, it would be the
No,
base.
they're
No, it's-
just talking about repairing the base coat.
Yeah,
John.
it's
Repairing the base coat.
replacing the base
Okay.
coat
Yeah.
on Palmetto, yeah.
375
Okay.
feet.
Under the project completion deadlines, we have no objection to saying 1 month before the start of work of each phase. That's a perfectly acceptable,
I don't think.
in this case, there is no phase, but, I mean, when it's done, when the access road is built is when 1 month before that is when we're gonna need the site security for Pogus Woods.
I don't think they took an exception to that, but, because I don't think that the, site security for what they're going to do is significant enough to.
No, but there's no need for us to be holding it for,
Okay.
it could be,
Right.
could be a multiple of years before we get to 50 units on the other side of the, and then we would update, later on in the document, the information on the gate and the maintenance of the road is repeated, so we would update in those sections as well. So I think that pretty well takes care of Pogus Woods. Do you want me to do Langley Cove, or do you want to wait till you want to do, Mr. Chair?
I think,
Just keep on
it's the
trucking?
board's pleasure, just keep on trucking, right?
Okay.
Sure.
All right, so Langley Cove, again, we want to insert, we have the language about the repair of Palmetto Drive. Again, we want to insert at the developer's cost into there, take out the date of September 1st and make it when the, if that's what the board decides to do,
Is that at
giving you
page
the option. Sorry?
413.
Page 4,
It-
H.
It actually would be on 8, because this is the,
Yeah.
this is the condition, these
Yeah,
are the conditions.
okay.
Yep.
We have the dates on page 4, the project completion deadlines. We'll do the, again, 1 month before the start of each phase is fine. I want to point out at this point in time, so that the board is not surprised, come July of 2020, this project is going to take more than 2 years. I can bet, all right? And under state law, we can only give approval for up to 24 months. So we're giving the full 24 months, and then the expectation is that extensions will be applied for, which is a routine matter before the board, but I don't, given some discussion we've had in a couple of past meetings about extensions, there will be extensions, and there probably will be a multitude of extensions for this project.
Are they okay with the October 2nd, 2018 plan revision?
For the plan revisions, October 2nd?
John?
Yep, okay. On page 7, up at near the top, number 6, which concerns the rain garden, the vegetated swale, we're going to just delete that entire section. On page 10, number 8, is the question came up about maintaining access to the 3 properties within the Langley Cove project. Mr. Wheaton's, the Hodges, and the other gentleman. This is the responsibility of the developer to maintain the current roads or an alternative so that they have continuous access to their properties. They also have to maintain whatever utilities are existing now. So in case these people have to get in and out, and to enjoy their property, they have to go to work, so that it has to be able to get in and out, and also for emergency access or whatever happens to occur, so that is a responsibility.
Do you think that adequately addresses those
Yes.
concerns, Mr.
Yeah,
Williams?
John has a plan to do that, so we're good with that. We want to add a number 9. You wanted to read it.
So the applicant requested some language about tree cutting. I propose that we base any tree cutting approval on the same system we use up at Meredith Bay. So I would recommend that we have a new, that would still stay number 9, right?
Yeah.
Okay. New condition number 9, selective tree cutting shall be permitted after review and approval by a planning department staff member. This process shall be modeled on the process used for review of tree cutting used at the Meredith Bay development. A plan showing the proposed extent of cutting shall be submitted to the planning department for review. A site visit shall follow, during which any trees proposed for cutting shall be appropriately marked. Final approval from the city shall be sent in writing before any trees are cut, and stumps shall not be removed.
Okay, do that again slower.
Well, I just have a question real quick.
Yes.
You said somebody from the planning department's gonna go and look at the tree?
Yes.
Is that nobody from the conservation?
So right now, the way that we do it up at Meredith Bay, which is the only other development currently active that we have ongoing tree review and approval, is that either the conservation deck or the planning assistant planner goes up and they have the trees all flagged with different colored ribbons, and we look at which trees are coming down and where they're located and that kind of thing. So, you know, it can be the conservation deck or it can be the assistant planner, and we like to keep that kind of flexible depending on staffing.
I just wonder about certain trees. I mean, I'm not a tree expert, but I know that if you've got a 150-year-old tree versus a 10-year-old tree, there's one that you don't want to have come down.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's something you guys take into consideration?
So up at Meredith Bay, most of those trees are newer because it was a ski hill for a long time. And what we're really looking at are protecting the views from the water, which I think was the intent of not allowing a significant amount of cutting in this location as well. So, I mean, it's certainly something that we could take into consideration.
And I understand, the developer wants to, of course, you want to have a good view. There's
Yeah.
some beautiful views there, so I get that. I just want to make sure that, just in case there's a special tree. I'm not
If
saying
there's a special
there may
tree-
be no special trees at all up in
If
that
I
area.
go out to look at trees and I think there's a special tree, I will call someone more knowledgeable than I am.
Okay, thank you.
Like if Woodsy Owl lives in the tree or?
No, I'm talking about the
No,
tree, not
no, I'm
Woodsy
not
Owl.
I'm not talking about animals, I'm
Just
talking about.
the tree.
My understanding is that in the past, tree cutting has generally been somewhat restricted just to keep the view from the water looking a little more natural in a lot of locations. So, did you have a question about that?
Yeah, Bill brought up a good point. Our tree cutting comment was about opening views once these units are up. Just want to be cautious about when the trees are cut for the footprint for these units.
Yes, yeah, that would be different,
Right,
yes.
I just wanted to make sure based upon those comments.
Sure, I can, we could put a sentence
Yep,
in there
that's
about that.
understood. So that's, I mean, obviously, you've got multiple pages of staff recommendations here, and they all stand as far as we're concerned. And they are our recommendations until you vote to either accept them or modify them.
So,
And, one other thing, Mr. Chair, if I may, concerning the 1,900 feet of water line, I don't want people to, not sure the right word I want to use here, but I don't want people to think that we strong-armed anybody to do anything. There's a quid pro quo involved with this, in that, and we're a little fuzzy on the details because this is a water department function, and they have a multi-page document that they're in the process of negotiating with the water department that covers the water line and the operation of the pump stations for this project, and that's not our ballywhack by any means. But the options, if I remember right, and maybe John knows, the options were to build a water tower up there, or to build a 1,900 feet of line, and I think that was the quid pro quo, and the decision was, we'll take the line.
Their
And then
decision.
we'll work on the pump stations to make them adequate.
The decision was made by the developer, or?
It was a joint decision.
Joint decision.
Just to clarify, the water tower issue was before everything had been designed to be interconnected. We didn't own Paugus back then. And, you've got a situation where Evergreens, Langley, and Paugus are going to be interconnected. That's what resolved the need for a water tower. So water department said, well, now that you've done all this and you don't need a water tower, we want our 1,900 feet. So just to be clear, it wasn't one for the other. It was, you no longer need this, so now you're gonna give us this.
Because without that, could the water pipes that are there now handle the capacity of these
Yes,
added
they could,
units? They
Because
could.
of the interconnection of Pogus, because these pump stations were built oversized so that they could be all interconnected, and these three projects could share water that's already there. So when those projects were married in that way, that resolved the need for a water tower. And that's when Water Department said, okay, by the way, we got 1,900 feet that we need over here, and we're going to impose that as a requirement. That 1,900 feet is not gonna be creating the water capacity for this project. It's already there based upon the interconnection. So I'm not disagreeing with Dean, I'm clarifying it.
Yep.
Right.
Well, I mean, because Dean's right, though, because there is this underlying cloud here, or overhead cloud, that some people think that you guys have been strong-armed in doing this. And my question is, and I guess the water department not being here, I can't really find out the exact reasoning for this, but it does pose a question. You know, could the water pipes as they stand handle the added capacity? This gentleman is saying yes, but I would love to hear that from the water department, because I don't know that the water department has the authority to just, or anybody can say, hey, like the quid pro, whatever, however you said it there. So you wanna do this, but you gotta, to do that, we're gonna make you do this. And I don't know that that's happening, quite frankly, and, without cause. It just doesn't make any sense, because if that was the case, I know we do it with sidewalks, but if that's the case, why stop there? Why not new highways?
As you know, Charlie, the water department is
Its own thing.
quasi-independent.
That's correct.
You know, their own commissioners and, you know, the whole 9 yards here, so I don't know how to answer your question. I don't know the answer to your questions. It's been my understanding, I mean, literally, one of the first things that Brandy dumps on my desk, like my third or fourth day of being on the job, is, hey, guess what? The Langley Cove folks are back in for their application. And the water line and all that stuff has been basically part of that, as far as I know, part of that discussion since at least that point in time. So it's not like this
Okay,
came
so-
up at the last moment or anything like that.
So I want to ask John a question, if I may, John. The water line, let's say that's going to go in 1,900 feet towards the pumping station at St. Moritz?
Yes.
Is that water line in the middle of the boulevard or on the side? It's in the middle of the boulevard. So is the entire boulevard going to be repaved because of this?
Part of the,
Section, yep.
yep,
That
part of
one
the
section.
contract is they're gonna strip and repave completely, yes.
They're going to strip it, but not really repave it.
They're gonna,
Sounds like
No.
another subcoat.
no.
Is Brady Sullivan gonna be paying for that? Is that part of the thing, they gotta repave the whole road? Because I didn't see that in here unless I missed it.
Part of, it's part of the water agreement.
So the whole road,
They have to construct before Memorial Day and after Labor Day.
right, that much I knew, so, okay. Gee, we could have another guardian angel here, Counselor, and maybe they could, instead of just doing the stripping thing, they could do the whole thing with concrete.
We're
and
gonna
make it
make
last
it-
forever.
We're gonna make it just like Union Ave, so it'll be consistent.
Charlie,
Wonderful.
for the record, the city at considerable expense tore up the concrete that the Weirs Boulevard was originally
That's
constructed of.
that's absolutely right.
Just to put that
That's
water
absolutely
line.
right, that lasted 50 years there.
Right.
50 years versus the 3 to 4 years we get now.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Crap.
Okay, so I think that concludes the staff recommendations. What's the pleasure of the board? You have before you two very well vetted applications, actually a number of applications, but two proposals that include within them some conditional use permits and things of that sort. Very complicated. The changes that were discussed here tonight are more extensive than what was in the packet that we originally received. So some of what you're gonna have to consider is new information that you heard here tonight. So I would entertain a motion, one way or the other. Your options would be to vote up or vote down, or vote to continue the application for further information, staff input. I think you've heard at each stage of the way from the public, mostly abutters, and people directly impacted by these proposals. So I guess I'll just throw it out to you. What is the pleasure of the board? Don't all speak at once.
I'll speak.
Thank you.
First, I want to commend all you people. This is, I believe, 7 months. You've been coming diligently every month, and believe me, your voices are heard. Brady Sullivan's willing to build the water line in, build the catch basin, everything else. Why are we unwilling to build a separate road to go to White Oaks? That used to be a gravel road, could stay gravel as far as I'm concerned. I can't understand it. I don't. How much does it cost to put that road in?
This wasn't our idea.
I understand, you said it was,
We have done everything we've been asked for. We designed that road. We were going for the permits. We were going down that road. The former staff administration said, don't do it that way. So we had everything redesigned. We have done this engineering over and over and over again. All we've done is what we've been asked to do. So to say, Brady Sullivan, why don't you build the road? Because the staff told us not to do it.
okay. But that was before. Honestly, I don't believe having 300 units emptying out on Weirs Boulevard right at Christmas Island is good.
This has been reviewed by traffic. There's all kinds of third-party review baked into this thing. I cannot tell you how we have done everything we've been asked to do.
You've
So,
been diligent.
Yeah. And John and his people have bent over backwards to continue to make revisions. So to say, why don't we go back to this road, would be like saying, let's wipe out the past, how many years have we been on phase?
10 years.
So let's go back in 10 years and start again. This can't be rethought for another 10 years. This should be an up or down vote. This should not be, let's redesign it, because this has been designed. John will tell you how many hours he has into it. He spent 10 years on this. He's done what he's been asked to do. To say, let's build this road, is to throw everything out and start again.
And the fees that the city of Laconia has charged for third-party reviews could have paved the roads in August probably 4 or 5 times over.
Traffic
That's how
studies
much-
and everything
that's how much
else.
third-party
Yeah.
review fees
I should have brought that up.
by the city of Laconia
Not
has
now,
been.
then.
Yeah, I can't tell you how often I got a
You
call
could have
from
brought that
Shannon
up here at this table.
saying, send us more money, send us more money, send us more money. We just
Could've.
kept sending checks in so they could review it and review it. And then we would pay John and Christian to redo it again and again and again. So respectfully, this has been reviewed, it's been vetted, it's been engineered to death. And this is what the people who were paid to make these decisions came up with.
May I just ask a question to, this is to answer his concern. Evergreen, that's your development, right, Evergreen?
That was another failed development that Brady Sullivan
Okay, that's fine.
purchased in-
Yeah, that's fine. No, I'm not complaining about the development. How many units are there?
There is probably about 100.
Yeah, I was thinking
There
in
was,
that
there was
range.
81 to begin with, and then there was another 26 up on top.
That's all there is up there? It looks like
Yeah,
so much
that's
bigger
it.
than it. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
And the reason I say that is because, and I understand your concerns about the traffic, I agree with that. And I thought about that, but then I started thinking about Evergreen. It's like, I'm on Weirs Boulevard maybe 20 times a day, and that's no exaggeration. And it's very rarely I see a car coming or going out of that place.
Right.
So, and that's not a great line of sight there either. So I get concerns on the curve there by Christmas Island. But that's just, that's just the one thing on just.
Evergreens has no turn lanes, it has no double
That's
sided
correct. It's a very narrow stretch right there. Yeah, I know, I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it. So that's all. Thank you on that.
So there have been traffic studies, and there have been drainage studies and slopes, and I think the developer has a point, that they have responded to staff's concerns and the board's concerns. I really think that the buck stops here, as far as these two applications go. As chair, I don't expect that I will vote unless there's a tie. So if anyone wishes to make a motion either way, the chair would yield the floor at this time.
I have one other question.
Sure.
On Palmetto, so they're looking to not have a definitive date
Correct.
on that?
The commitment is to repair the potholes soon, and then
The 300.
repair the overall pavement when the access road is built.
And there's no time frame for that?
Correct.
And do you feel that these conditions give the city enough oversight during the construction phases of Langley Cove to ensure that we're not going to be addressing issues down the road such as drainage and things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
And all the siltation controls during the construction phases will be in place before.
Absolutely. I mean, there's multiple places in the recommendations where we are going to be requiring Brady Sullivan to pay for third-party inspections and review. I mean, there's, as we've said multiple occasions, there is a great deal of engineering work, site work that needs to be done on the Langley Cove property. We do not have on staff anyone that's qualified to measure compaction rates and those kinds of things. And those are the kinds of things that we would have to hire from a third party. We would do the hiring, they would pay for it. They're fully aware of that. I believe that that addresses the issues that we have been concerned about. And the water department has similar requirements in their contract for when they're laying the water lines, and DPW is going to have a contract with them for the sewer, and I mean, it just, so the very short answer is yes, but I believe that we have learned from past projects of the kind of oversight that we need to have. We can't have our building inspector on that site all the time. There's other properties in the city that needs to have inspections done, so that would be the primary responsibility of the building inspector, and we would have to hire someone to be on site as often as necessary to do the inspections there.
I have a question, Dean. On number 4C2, now that you know where the gate is, do you feel that it would be okay if the Pogus Woods maintain their portion of?
Yeah, if the board just wants to, since the gate's going to be at the property line, if the board wants to have each development maintain their section of the road.
Can we just delete that one?
We'll reword it when we do the official NOA, but when and if someone makes a motion, right now I'm sensing if, but.
On that one item.
Yeah, or, well, just to mention, while you do the motion, just to mention on that item that wording needs to be changed, and we've got recordings and minutes, so we can figure out what needs to be put in there for words.
Okay. On page, for Langley Cove, on page 7, You wanted to delete paragraph 6 up at the top?
Yes.
Is that because of this gentleman's offer to do that?
Mr. Tilton has offered graciously to handle that situation.
Do we need to put language in there or just delete it entirely?
No, we have a commitment from Mr. Tilton.
Right. We do.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you, Mr. Tilton.
That's the right thing to do. Are there any other questions for staff? So, after the last hearing, I went up and I drove the streets up in August Woods, and I saw the condition of Palmetto. I didn't see any portion of any of the roads to be impassable. I did see some areas where obviously the substrate was undermined and the potholes had resulted. I did see the hole by the fire hydrant and the sandbags. And I understood what it meant to all the people that bought lots and built homes in that development. And with the heat that I had received from the public, sat down and drafted an amendment, proposed amendment, and sent it to staff. Please control your blood pressure over there, gentlemen, but the proposal was that the developer be required to bring all the roads in August Woods up to finish grade. And then staff wisely said, well, we've published our recommendations and you can bring that up at the meeting. And then I thought more about it, and I think what clarified it for me was a comment that Attorney Philpott said about $40 million. And, you know, it's their money. And they have a right to spend their money as they see fit. And it's not an exaggeration to say that every single hoop that we require a developer to go through is money out of their pockets. Yes, all land development is speculative. And yes, they are investing in a far less than guaranteed return on that investment. So to require any developer to expend that kind of money just for the purpose of basically developing an adjacent project, on second thought, didn't seem to me to be all that fair. It's hard to sit here as a member of the board and listen to the public comments and to feel the pain of the people that are understandably skeptical. But the point of the matter is that we are a country of laws, and there are laws that govern this process. And for all his bravado, Mr. Pinard's point is well taken, that if any public board were to act in a seemingly arbitrary manner, and there's tens of millions of dollars at stake, you can almost guarantee that there's going to be litigation. And then we're not doing anybody any good. And we're certainly not helping the abutters and the existing property owners, because all we're doing is further delaying this project. So as I said, the board's options are limited to making a motion to approve it and voting on that, making a motion to continue it. Somebody has to make those motions. They're two separate motions. They're going to take some time to do. We're going to need staff's assistance to make sure that we get the language just right, because we're varying from what they sent us. But I think tonight's the night that we have to do that. And as we go through these motions, then members of the board that have particular questions or wish to adjust the language in some way, we have the developer and the developer's legal representatives here to respond to those comments. We can get her done tonight.
I have I'm not gonna make a motion,
Okay?
Mr. Chair, but I am gonna make a comment if I can. I
Please
would have seconded that motion had you made that, just so you know, all the roads. I understand what you said after that, totally understand it. But, you know, if Langley Cove was a half mile down the road or a mile down the road, I would get that the two aren't like, you know, the same guy or whatever, however you wanna look at it. But they are right next to each other, and it is the same developer. And I think that, Councilor Philpott, when he used the term guardian angel, and it's a good term, there is a lot of money floating around this whole thing. And this project is, I don't know how the hell they're gonna do it. John's probably the only guy that can get it done, or maybe some of the other good developers around here, engineers. It's gonna take a lot of work. But it would have gone so much further to satisfy the abutters, Paugus Woods, to say, you know what, you're right about these roads here. And let's bring them up to snuff. To let those holes develop, to have some guy have a sandbags out in front of his property for a year and say, well, okay, we're gonna look at that. We're not gonna give you a timeline, but we will look at it, is ridiculous. And that's why I'm very skeptical about giving the okay for this project without some sort, I mean, even concrete guarantees, with all due respect, makes me very uncomfortable.
Well, they're going to have to pledge a great deal of capital to get this done. Listen, when I went up there, it was several weeks, actually, after the last hearing, and frankly, I was surprised that they hadn't done those repairs. It would have not cost really all that much in the big scheme of things and gone a long way towards engendering trust amongst the people that live in the development. But again, I don't get, you don't get, we don't get to tell them how to spend their money. And we're not in the business of advising developers on how to maintain their public relations. So, again, we have before us two applications that have been thoroughly vetted by staff, that have been debated in this room and outside this room and in coffee shops all over the city, ad infinitum, in living rooms, on people's front lawns, on their 45-degree driveways. But we can't fix that driveway, and we can't fix that road and that street. What we can do is, the best that we can do is to ensure that this development, as all the developments in the city, are consistent with the best interests of the city as a whole, and to preserve any property owner within the city of Laconia the right to make the highest and best use of the property that they own. Same as I would want if I applied for a building permit on my land. So, anyway, the chair is now officially off the soapbox, and once again is asking for someone to make a motion.
David?
Yeah, I'm going to explain my rationale for making the motion and what I'm going to do before I actually make the motion.
1,000 words or less?
Shorter words than you've used tonight,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Point taken.
Okay. I'm going to move to approve both of these projects. I'm going to take the amendments as suggested for Paugus Woods. I'm going to put in a condition on paragraph 4C6.
Let's stop you right there, if I may. I hate to interrupt such an august member of this board, but we need
Well,
two
then don't.
separate motions.
I'm going to make two separate motions.
Okay.
I'm explaining what I'm going to do first. I'm not making a motion right now.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to do with what the planning board suggested in paragraph 4, conditions to be completed. C6, I'm going to put in at the developer's expense. Is that right? I'm going to put in an additional condition that the potholes be addressed or rectified, or I'm not sure what the language is I'm going to be by September 1 of 2018, unless the developer asks for an extension with satisfactory reasons to explain the delay. I'm going to put in for both of these with respect to the completion date of Palmetto Drive. I'm just going to modify the language in both of the things that they should be completed by September 1, 2019, and if extension is requested, they should do that by August of 2019 to complete the drives and give us an explanation. I get it, that you don't want to do it until you're there yet. I don't know when that'll be. In August of 2019, you can tell us we're going to be there in 2 years, 1 year, whatever, with respect to that. So essentially, that's going to be my motion for both of them. I'm going to not put site improvement security a firm date, but a month before the work is done. And I'm going to put in some kind of tree cutting amendment. I'll allow what Brandy gave us.
It's got some language here.
And basically, that's the,
That's 9.
that's what I'm going to do. So, I told you what I'm going to do because these are complicated applications with complicated stuff, and I wanted to have a discussion, if anybody wants to have a discussion, about whether you'd like to change that and why.
Thank you for that, David.
Dave, on 4C, on August Woods,
Oh, yeah.
item number 2, is that okay if we take that out?
Yeah.
Only because the gate was not at the same location that
Right.
Dean looked at first time.
You mean 4C,
Number 2. on
number
4C.
2? I'll just eliminate that. I overlooked that, or I'm going to put in,
Okay.
in language like each party will be responsible for that portion of the roadway.
Sounds great.
On their maintenance,
Thank you.
on their part of the thing. So, I guess I want to say that I'm listening to you folks from Paugus Wood. I know that might be hard for you to believe, but I am listening to you. And I think that there's a lot of distrust. This case is probably going to court no matter what we do. I think everybody gets that. But that's the gist of my motion with respect to this. I appreciate, or I have a lot of understanding for the way in which this came about and how we got here and how they started out with one road in one place and the planning department shifted gears a while ago in a galaxy that seems like far, far away. So I'm just,
Go for it, Obi-Wan.
that's what I'm going to do. Has anybody got any input here that you would like me to do something different, that you would like other language in here?
So let me, you're saying that Palmetto, the road, the holes that are there now and everything else, you want repaired by September 1st of this year?
September 1st, or an explanation as to why they can't do it before.
2019, you said.
Huh?
2019.
2018,
Okay.
this year.
You said potholes.
For potholes and, the sandbags and the whatever.
Repairs, not repaved.
No,
I'm not
right, the
repaving,
repairs.
I'm repairing,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Everybody got me clear?
Does anybody have a issue with
then-
that? I'm just curious.
Seems somewhat less expensive than one I came up with.
And then you're also, David, you're also saying that the actual repaving of Palmetto is,
I'm going to say it should be done by September 1st of 2019. If they want an extension, they can come to us in August of 2019 and tell us why and give us a time frame in which they expect to begin the phase that's going to deal with that road. So I'm looking for an update in a year.
Wouldn't 2020 make sense because that's the
No, I
period?
know, I know. Everybody's pressing the metal here. I'm gonna press, I'm doing September of 2019.
Well, I'm
They can
just,
come back and say, hey,
they're gonna be back for extensions, and that's,
So
For sure.
I'm doing September of 19 because I want to know what the situation of the roads are. So I'm giving them a break in terms of they must complete it by September 1st and tell them they should complete it. And if they don't, come tell us why.
I have a question.
yes, sir.
Before we strike, I think it was number 6 about the rain garden and the drainage structure. Is there some way we could reword that to make it easier for the gentlemen and their engineers to get that project through? Since he's doing a favor for the town?
I think Dean indicated
Dean-
that that was already worked out with the town.
I think there's an
He's been
agreement in,
working with DPW for a number of years now. so,
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
so we don't need to do anything, I just need to delete that paragraph.
Correct.
right.
Yeah, when you get to Langley Cove, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
As to, anybody else got any input here? As to application 2015-0142 SP Amendment, August Woods, to eliminate a lot and create a secondary access for 553 Weirs Boulevard development of Langley Cove. I move that we grant conditional approval with the following conditions. 1, project completion dates, A, C, and D, and this amendment to B, site security improvement 1 month before the start of work.
For each phase.
No, there's no phase here.
Oh, never mind, sorry.
Yep,
Have I got that right?
yep,
Sir.
yep.
Right. I want you guys to chime in here, because this is,
I just have too many notes.
okay.
Yep.
2, plan revisions, A, B, C, A, B, wait a minute.
Yep.
All you got, Dave, A and B.
A and B.
A and B. I've
Right.
just got to keep my paper straight in front of me. You put them on front and back, so I get confused. 3, conditions that must be met prior to final approval or recording of the Mylar. 3A through H.
Yep.
And I think H has 4 subdivisions, A, B, C, D, and E, 5 subdivisions, so all of those conditions.
I hate this two-sided stuff, too.
Okay. So 4,
Yeah.
conditions to be completed prior to the start of site work. A, B, C1, C2 will be amended so that each party will be responsible for the maintenance of the roadway on their property or condo association common units. 3, 4, 5, 6, with the caveat that this will be done at the developer's expense. Add 7, with these amendments, The above noted road, driveway, and drainage work on Palmetto Drive should be completed by September 1st, 2019, or before the city will issue more than 50 COs for either the Langley Cove or Pogus Woods project, with the caveat that the applicant may come to the board by August 1st of 2019 with an explanation as to the delay, the reasons for the delay, and an update with the expected date for the work on the driveway and the drainage work on Palmetto Drive. 7, or this is 8, that the potholes and repair of the roadways at Pogus Woods shall be addressed by September 1st of 2018. If the applicant needs an extension, they can do one by August 5th, 2018. 5, conditions applicable during and after construction, A through F. 6, as-built. And the duration of approval, all final approvals by the planning board expire 1 year from the date the board voted to approve the project, unless otherwise provided in the motion to approve. Okay, that's Pogus Woods.
I'll second that motion.
So the motion was made by Councilor Bounds and seconded by the Vice Chair, Mr. Bonas.
Call the question.
Well, do we want any further debate on the motion?
Yes.
Mr. Delvecchio?
Before we vote, let's think about, is this really good for Laconia, this development up there on the hill? I understand the developer has a right to do things, but is it the best thing for the use of that land to put 300 apartments up there? I personally don't believe that to be true. And I just want you to think about it before you cast your vote.
Thank you. So I think the question's been called. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising their hands. Opposed? The motion carries.
What was the count?
4 to 2.
5-2. 5-2.
5-2.
Aren't you voting?
Don't blame me, don't
Yeah, this is my
expect me
first
to count.
meeting, I don't think I get to vote.
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, Ms. Jenna was,
She's-
Jenna,
she's the
we're
alternate.
alternates, and she's been deemed the person that votes. I
right.
So
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4 to 2, is that the count?
5-2.
I thought I saw 5 to 2.
5,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We have 7
5 to
voting
2,
members.
right.
Again, we need to count.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. You are on a roll.
I'm on a roll.
Yes.
Okay. For applications 2011-024 SP, site plan subdivision, PL 2011-027 CUP, wetland buffers, PL 211-0026 CUP, steep slope CUP, PL 2015-0141 SU, boundary line adjustment, and PL 2018-023 SU, boundary line adjustment. Langley Cove condominium for Brady Sullivan Properties. I move to grant conditional approval for these applications with the following conditions. 1, project completion deadlines. A, plan revision October 2nd, 2018, or before the start of work, whichever is sooner. B, site security, site improvement security 1 month before the start of the work, by phase, requested 30 days prior to the beginning of the work, with the site improvement security geared to the actual phase that's coming under construction. C and D as stated. 2, plan revisions and conditions that must be met prior to and during construction as specified. 2A,
Those are all,
there are really that many conditions
Listen,
there.
this is
Just 2A,
This is
1 through 7, with the caveat that Roman numeral 7, paragraph 6 will be deleted in its entirety. B, so I'm still on
yes,
2.
it's still on
So
two.
2, B. Let me see if I've got anything here.
Yeah,
Um,
this is where Mr. Roki came in.
2B, Roman numeral 2, number 15. No, 16. This amendment, the driveway and drainage work on Palmetto Drive should be completed by September 1st, 2019, or before the city will issue more than 50 COs for either the Langley Cove or Progress Wood project, provided that the applicant may by August 1st of 2019, submit a letter or a request for an extension, explain the rationale for the extension, and the expected date of the beginning of that phase of the work.
Excuse me, on 15, to add cost by the developer.
I'm glad you're here. The amendment to 15 is
At the cost of the developer, please.
the cost of the developer to pay the cost of
And the repairs, too.
and the repairs.
You want to change number 11 as well, David?
Match the Pogus Woods,
Yeah.
each development shall be responsible for their portion of the
Okay.
roadway maintenance.
You just got so many conditions here, I just can't keep up. Okay, so I'll change number 11 to indicate that the parties shall share equally the cost of maintenance of the road within their property boundaries. Does that do it for you?
Right.
Okay. All right. Am I still on 2?
You're on
So I'm still on B,
2B, Roman numeral 3.
Roman numeral 3,
Requirements.
4, and requirements during constructions 3, 4, 5, Roman numerals 3, 4, and 5, as submitted.
You need to add a number 9.
I'm going to add a number 9, that selected tree cutting, not related to the removal of trees for actual construction of buildings, may be done in cooperation with a member of the planning board or conservation commission, or whoever the planning director designates to undertake that task. Okay. So,
Did you want language in there, Brandy, about comparing it to the other development that you mentioned?
If the board is comfortable, I just think it's the way that we do it, so it makes sense to be consistent.
I asked you to repeat yourself, and you didn't.
I can do
You
so
were
if you
speaking
would
too
like,
fast, and
but
I
it's
can't write
also-
that fast.
If you want to reference the recording, you can.
Okay, and I'll reference to Brandy's motion as she said it during the, during the meeting. 10, conditions that must be met prior to final approval or recording of the Mylar. A through H inclusive. Am I missing anything there?
Under H, Roman numeral 5, there's just a couple of sentences talking about how Langley Cove is responsible for that full access connection, so we
Right.
would just strike those sentences and leave the very first sentence.
So the first sentence
Where
and
are-
the
where?
last sentence.
Number 5, right here.
Page 11, yeah.
Condominium documents, is that the one that
Yep.
begins?
Yep.
Okay,
Just leave the first sentence. And that,
okay.
yeah.
I will strike the language after between the two developments in its entirety.
The first and the last sentence of that section, right? And strike the middle section?
Yeah.
Middle sentence. So you're gonna keep the language, it says, "This includes all sections on Paugus Woods property." That
I
sentence?
would just leave the first sentence and call it a day.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
me too.
I
That's
think
fine.
it's just,
Oh,
it's just,
okay, yes,
it's just gonna
yes.
read condominium documents must be
It's a
updated
reference
to
to the-
reflect responsibility for maintenance of the
access
gate
road. Yep.
and the access road between the two developments.
It's already been covered. My bad.
Why do I go from number 10 to number 4?
You don't know how to indent.
It's 10 under section 3. Just keep going.
Okay.
It's
4,
similar,
conditions
like
to be
subpart 4.
completed prior to the start of site work, A and B. 5, conditions applicable during and after construction, A, B, in its entirety, C, D, E, F, and G, and 6, as-built plans. All final approvals by the planning board expire 1 year from the date of the board voted to approve the project unless otherwise provided in the motion to approve.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Bounds, and seconded by Ms. Denhel.
I'm taking commentary.
No.
Yes?
No? I'll take yours.
No comment?
I have a comment.
Oh, of course you do.
I'm gonna vote for this. I felt very comfortable voting against the last one, because I don't think we did enough to rectify the situation at Paugus Woods. I'm gonna vote for this because I have complete faith in the planning department staff to oversee this, and I have equally as great faith in John Roque over there, because I know he does good work. And we've heard from some of the residents here that he's been accommodating to their concerns. But that's the only reason.
2 reasons.
No, those are the only reasons, thank you. No disrespect to the counselors here. They do a job, they work for somebody, I get that. I have very little faith in the ownership of this corporation. But that's only from what I've seen in my experience, and it certainly is not limited to Laconia, New Hampshire, or for that matter, the state of New Hampshire. And I think that we, as our position here, should be aware of those situations. So, that being said, I will vote for this, but I wanted to, again, say to the chair why I voted against the last one, and I feel, at this point in time, very comfortable voting against that, for the reasons I've said. Thank you.
Thank you. You obviously put a lot of thought into this, as I'm sure we all have. So, we have a motion and we have a second. Does anyone else any other members of the board wish to debate it or make any further statements? Therefore, I guess we'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising their hand. And those opposed? See, I didn't count fast enough.
6-1.
6-1. So the motion carries. So, good luck.
Thank you, folks. All I have to say is thank you. That's 14 years of my life to get to this point.
Probably, is that
Like-
the steepest slope on that scale that you've ever had to deal with?
No.
No?
This
Not at
is
all.
like,
No.
No.
Well, it's job security, I guess.
it's like
14
getting
more
a
to go.
divorce, John, you know?
I came here from Colorado. Stuff gets built on a lot steeper stuff than
Got
this.
some plan revisions to do, so better get to work.
On a lake? On a lake?
Side of a mountain.
Yeah, but not on a lake.
Hey, if I leave, do we lose a quorum?
Thanks again, folks.
We
Thank
don't,
you.
do
So
we?
what is thank you very much. What is the pleasure of the board? Do you want to take a short break before we move on?
I want to ask, yes, just take a short
Yes,
break.
Like 5 minutes short.
Like
Yeah,
I
because
asked-
we're planning on finishing this. I know there's
Yeah.
one gentleman out there that's been,
It's-
We
Oh, yes,
will
yes.
finish, but it's been a long time without a potty break for some of us old men, so.
So I'm going to ask the question.
5 minutes is good, thanks.
I'm going to ask the question. If I leave, do we still have a quorum? 1, 2, 3.
Yes, and plus we have a,
Six.
You have other alternates.
We have other alternates?
no, we can't, you
The
can't
alternates can vote on it.
replace him. Mr. Chair.
You're irreplaceable.
I'm irreplaceable.
The next one's the alternates.
Because I got to make a phone call, but
That
I got
when you
to.
break,
That's
the
what
mics
you
stay
are.
on. Just my reminder to the board that when you break, the mics and the cameras stay on. There's no way to stop them. Okay?
Thank you for reminding
Whatever
me.
you say will be in perpetuity on YouTube.
It won't be the first time I've been caught singing on camera.
Well, we're done with that.
for tonight,
Normally the
for
chair.
tonight,
opens
for
theirs.
tonight there, Todd.
I
Same
understand
as
that.
the
So
mayor
we're not
doesn't
gonna
vote
do
in
that.
city council unless there's a tie. I don't believe
Well,
that
there-
there's
Mr. Chairman.
any
This
requirement.
was the meeting to come to.
I don't believe there's any requirement, but
I think we jinxed ourselves.
my view of it is that I'm supposed to be, pursuing basic or good.
I don't know if you know, but this one here originally was
Dare I
approved
say
for
that.
343 units.
Because
So it's
next thing you
come
know,
down
they'd be filing a lawsuit.
a lot.
Oh, no. It'll be the first time.
No, I know.
That's a history.
Dean, there's water out on the other side.
Yeah, that one's empty, but there's one that's full.
Where's the full one at?
Down there.
And the public side over there.
Yep.
Grab a cup here. I'm not sure if there's any out there.
I don't know if there is.
Up on top.
They get the water,
On
but
the
no
top.
cups.
Yeah. Well,
We get the
there's
cups,
probably
but no
cups over
water.
there, but
Sounds like a government.
you might as
deal
well
to
be
me.
safe.
Sounds like a government deal to me.
Watch out. I have to be in this building.
What's that?
I have to be in this building all day. Yep, another water.
That's the fifth time I've been in here behind him.
Sorry, 8 months.
When Brandy told me we could come to this meeting and not next one, she didn't tell me I was
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
You know,
got
just
good moral fiber.
make sure they take care of you, you know? Really, Paul, hey,
Sleep well.
thank you.
Cameras are still on?
Yes.
Mics are still on? Oh, but not the cameras? Oh. Okay.
You gotta go over to that one, Charlie,
See that.
on the public side.
The public side.
Were there cups over there?
No, the cups are here, the water's over there. I could say something, but the mics are on.
Did you get that thing straightened out? The trademark?
For the record, they reuse these spreadsheets. So as we go through, to put the right ones out there, and then they collect them at the end. Red paper must be a valuable commodity.
Christmas paper? Is there anything open-ended in there?
I'll find a place.
Then we don't have to drive to Belmont or something.
Cumbies.
Oh, Cumbie, oh, Cumbie's
good
parking
call.
lot, huh?
Good call.
Beggars can't be choosers.
You know what?
right?
You guys just come over to my house. It's fine.
I'm
I'm
in.
fully stocked.
I'm in.
Hey, Dee, you gonna be around your office tomorrow?
Yes, not first thing in the morning, but, yes, I gotta be
We
here
have
at 10
a
o'clock.
meeting at 10 and then we have a meeting at noon.
So,
Other than that,
yeah.
it should be
So
around.
2 o'clock or so,
Oh, that should be fine, yep. You wanna come in?
that might stop by.
Okay.
Right. It does,
Lena.
because I've got
Lena, could you remind me of that, please?
2 o'clock tomorrow.
I'll call.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm just halfway around the loop down here anyway.
So I gotta ask, is that fun or what?
That was so fun. I had a blast.
I love it when you lie to me like that.
I'm married, I'm good at that.
Hey, that's on the
I'm
mic.
just
That's on the mic.
That hurts.
That can be used in court of law.
That's all right.
So, while I've got all of you here,
Oh, okay.
thank you for all the hard work you did on this. I know that this was an enormous project and really stretched you out in terms of, when I'm looking at recommendations that are miles long, I'm knowing that you've done your work, and I appreciate it.
Randy's the author.
Yeah, but the edits are critical. I think the gardens came pretty close in length, but not necessarily complication.
Well, this was a tough project, you know? And they are building on some pretty steep slopes.
Okay.
And you put them through their paces in terms of what's going on.
A lot going on, yep.
Thank you.
May I have the floor?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, 9:46, we're gonna go back on, well, we never went off the record, but we're gonna resume. If I can get my agenda here.
Okay, I'm gonna make just a general statement.
Yes, sir.
I thank the planning department and all of you, including you, Mike, for all the hard work everybody put in this application. It was a chore, we can put it to bed for tonight.
Yes, for tonight.
For tonight. And everybody have a good night. It should be an easy meeting without me after this.
Thank you.
Thank you, David Bounds.
So, with his departure, while we can't actually substitute anyone for him because he's ex officio member, so, but I did say at the outset that Mr. Bellevaux and we have 3 alternates here tonight, right, don't we? So who wants to volunteer to sit on the next one?
Well, I will do it. She's already in, so I'll do it.
She's been in, so Mr. Bellevaux is now be seated as a full member for the purposes of the next application.
I can go.
Yes, no?
Do you want to leave?
No.
Kicked off.
Stay.
Yes, please.
Stay.
All right, I'm just checking.
Stay but not vote.
Stay but not vote, just,
You're swapping roles.
you're swapping roles, so he will be a voting member for this.
Never get to leave here.
Yes, you can check out anytime you like.
Everything but raise your hand.
But you can never leave.
Yes.
That's right.
Exactly, my point.
On now.
So I believe, unless I am gravely mistaken, that we are at 80 Davidson Drive, which is, for the record, PL 2018 0057 CUP. It's a wetlands permit. It's a storage shed on blocks 20 feet in the 50-foot wetlands buffer. It was accepted last month. So we open the public hearing at this time. So I'm going to declare the public hearing open at 9:48 PM. And we're waiting for the next would be for the applicant to make his proposal.
All right, I just want to basically use up 20 feet of your wetlands. That's pretty much the size of it. We just want to put up a storage shed, and the 50-foot wetlands comes right to my driveway. So we want to move it back so I could put a shed there.
Okay.
All right, pretty simple.
That's, the contrast with the previous application is duly noted. I guess at this point, we would ask for the staff recommendation.
This is very straightforward. The lot is kind of oddly shaped and situated, so it's really difficult for the applicant to place a shed in any other locations and have access to it. We recommend that the board grant approval. We don't have any conditions or anything like that. It's pretty clean.
Wow. Okay.
Did you wish to change the completion deadline?
Yep, that should be 2019. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna have Gail start proofreading my. Not kidding.
So, are there any members of the public that wish to be heard on this application? The Save the Land Snails people or anybody? All right. So, sensing no public input, I guess we'll close the public hearing at 9:50 PM. And it's, what is the board's pleasure?
Didn't we just approve last month that anything going to a wetland buffer would have to be approved by that man?
That was,
Conservation?
that was, intermittent streams.
Yeah.
Which is different than this is an
Oh,
actual.
okay, wetland buffer,
Yep.
but different, sorry, okay.
Nope.
And that was to restore some language that had been inadvertently deleted.
Okay.
And this did go to he worked with the conservation technician.
Very
and-
good,
Yeah.
very
yep.
good. Okay, Southdown allows that? I'm surprised that
Yeah.
they let.
Yeah, I already have the approval from Southdown.
I'm surprised, I didn't.
Except for the
realize
color.
you could do that.
Except for the color.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
We know that.
All right, well, would someone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Right? Is that how it goes?
Yes.
I'd like to move to approve. Is that how I say?
That would be it.
Okay.
And there are no conditions, so you don't have to go through that long
Correct.
colloquy that
So I'll second that, Mr.
Bounds
Chair.
did. All right, so it's, a motion is by, I'm gonna screw up your.
That's right, everyone does. Marcia, so.
Marcia Sol.
Yeah.
And seconded by Mr. Sinclair. Is there any discussion on the motion? Sensing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor signify by raising their hands. And opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Happy shedding.
Thank you.
Is that your dog? Is that your dog there in the picture?
Yes.
Just curious.
Yeah, she's always, she likes to get in here.
Just wanted to, give proper attention.
Yeah.
Good luck on that color
That's
choice.
just, the dog is in it just for the sense of scale, Charlie. It's
Sure.
it's a new planning thing.
Big puppy.
Yes, a big puppy.
Says for-
Okay, so we are now moving to Province Street. PL 2018-0071 SB and 0074 CUP, a wetland buffer. 174 Province Street, Grace Presbyterian Church. It's a proposal to construct a 3,028 square foot addition and add 32 parking spaces. And this is up for acceptance tonight. So, can we have a motion to accept the application as complete?
Is it complete?
Yes,
Thank
sorry.
you. Thank you.
Okay, so motion to accept the application is complete.
I so move.
So moved by Ms. Denham. Is there anyone seconding?
Second it.
Seconded by Mr. St. Clair. Let's see, open the public hearing at 9:53 PM. And we'd like to hear from the applicant.
My name is Michael Bemis. I'm a land surveyor and I work for Stephen Smith and Associates. But I also happen to be a member of the church that is subject of the application. The purpose for our application is to add on to our building. There's an existing building there now and parking lot. And we'd like to add on to both the building and the parking. It's located at 174 Province Street. And the existing building, what I have up on the board now is an existing conditions plan. And the existing building is 36 by 6. It's located right here. Province Street is here at the lower left of the drawing. Driveway comes straight in. And then the parking lot is off to the southeast of the building. The seating that is in the building right now is about 100, accommodates about 100 people. And the parking lot has 42 parking spaces. And the shaded area right here is the existing parking lot with 3 handicap spaces. This is, as I mentioned, is the existing conditions plan showing the building, the parking. This area to the northwest, outlined in the dark line, there is a steep slope. There's a banking that goes up with residential properties to the northwest of that. There is 2 small wetlands. One to the southwest of the parking lot, it's a dotted line outlined there behind the Young property. And then there's another narrow strip to the northeast of the parking lot that's out towards the city of Laconia's property. And those are the 2 wetlands and buffers that we're dealing with. It's in a residential neighborhood. These are all residential properties around here and on Province Street. Out back is the city land, which is a large piece of land, which is on one portion of it is where the dog park is being constructed. And then to the southeast is St. Lambert Cemetery. So it's a pretty quiet neighborhood. It's wooded all the way around us. It's pretty well buffered from everything. And most people never know we're there unless they're looking for us because it's so well secluded. Matter of fact, we have a hard time. Sometimes, occasionally, people have a hard time finding us. But so I've talked with all the neighbors and explained what we proposed to do, and everybody that I talked to was very supportive. So I'll show you the proposed improvements plan. larger scale, easier to see. And this is the existing building is right here. The proposed addition is extending back towards the city property, and then a new entrance on the parking lot side of the building. So the area of the addition is about 1,500 square foot footprint, 2 stories. And with that addition, we'll have some more office space, the sanctuary area will be increased, the fellowship hall, classrooms, and the total seating will go from 100 up to 150 now, which is what we originally approved for when we got a special exception back in 1987 to operate a church up to 150 people in the sanctuary. So that's the addition for the building. The parking lot exists right now is this line right here. And then the additional parking is going to the northeast and to the southeast of it, giving us an additional 32 parking spaces. So we'll have a total of 74, and 6 of those will be handicap parking spaces. In June, we came to the zoning board and asked for a variance because the size of the parking lot, one of the regulations is if you have more than 150 feet, you need to have a landscaped island. So we asked that 10-foot wide landscaped island, we asked to have that waived, and we did receive a variance for it. The reason being is that, as I pointed out before, there's a little wetlands here and then a little wetlands here. And the 50-foot buffer comes into where the existing parking is here, and then it comes into the area where we're hoping to expand into right here. So that's the reason for the conditional use permit is because we're going to extend about 20 feet into that buffer. We won't be affecting the wetlands, but we'll be in that buffer. The 10-foot strip that would have been in here if they had not given us the variance would have pushed that even another 10 foot closer to the wetlands. So this allowed us to keep a little more buffer than what we had since we got the variance. So that variance was granted, allows us to have a little more buffer. We had met with the TRC and the Conservation Commission and Department of Public Works about the buffers and about our drainage design. Right now, the only treatment, we have a series of catch basins that come out and empty to what is now the wetlands, and basically it's what's created the wetlands. This little wetland area is what all drainage that's collected goes into. There is some sheet drainage from the existing parking lot goes into our lawn area here. But that lawn area and that ditch are the only 2 treatments that we have right now. What's being proposed now is to bring some of this drainage that is going to that ditch into these 2 treatment swales, one going off this direction and the other one going off this direction. And that will take all of the surface runoff that comes from this parking lot into those swales. And so there's going to be more of the surface runoff treated when we're done than there is currently. So we're kind of hoping to improve the treatment through this design. So those are the reasons why we think asking for the conditional use permit would be appropriate. And I just think when we're all said and done, we'll be better off than when we began as far as quality of surface water. Other than that, I believe we've met all the regulations and hope to have your approval.
This property, I just realized, where the steep slope is, that's the old sledding hill off Spruce Street, isn't it? The city uses it as a snow dump and a storage area right now, right?
Yeah, the city property, if you continue off to the northwest, does go out onto Spruce Street. So it's a little ways from here, but in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay.
Peter Court is just, if you're familiar with that, is what these lots are served by, the road up off Providence Street.
All right.
Could you point out the handicap parking for me? I can count 4, but I don't know where the other 2 are.
Yes, there are 3 up here. The building is different ways to access the building. There's a stairway on the front. There's 3 parking space, handicap spaces up there.
Right.
And then there's 4, 4 over here, so there's actually 7.
Okay, thank you.
You guys have enough parking up there?
Pardon me?
Will this be enough parking?
Yes, actually, the ratio of people to spaces exceeds what the city requirements are.
Okay.
And actually, right now, we don't have enough parking for the people we have that attend. We fill up the parking lot before we fill up the queues. So we've increased that ratio, taking that into account, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Perfect.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Let's see, none. Beth?
This project came to TRC, they met with the Conservation Commission, they received the variance, as was noted by the applicant, and it meets all the site plan and zoning regulations, except for those that they received appropriate approvals from the ZBA for. So we are recommending approval with only our standard conditions. There's no plan revisions, nothing special.
Okay. So, Chair would entertain a motion. The issue is acceptance of the application this evening.
Approval,
Oh, approval of the application, I'm sorry.
and you need to close the public hearing.
At 10:04 PM, the public hearing has ended. Okay,
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
sure.
Is this Luke Powell?
Yeah.
Yep.
What's he done? Okay. Wow, we don't even have to worry about it then.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there you go.
We reviewed it appropriately.
So, anyone care to make a motion?
I'll try my luck. I'd like to make a motion that we approve application PL 2018-0071 SP and PL 2018-0074 CUP. And that we accept staff recommendations. Number 1, project completion deadlines A through D. Number 2, A through E. And no number 3, number 4.
Microsoft
A.
Word, man.
What was that?
It's Microsoft Word.
4. Number 5, conditional application during and after construction, A through E. And add, number 6, as-built plans.
I'm not gonna make her go back into Word and.
We'll renumber them. We'll
Yeah.
renumber them. We'll renumber them.
Happens to me all the time. We use it in outline mode, it's ridiculous.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by the vice chair and seconded by Ms. Dineo. Any discussion on the motion? Sensing none, call the question. All those in favor say, raise your hands. And opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and as we say in the business, God bless.
Very much.
And can I say that in a city meeting? Do anything for a little grace. Okay, and should we just continue this thing and let this guy come back again, or?
I know I was here once, and I'd like to apologize. Last time I was here, I left. It's due to a medical
sorry.
emergency back at my house.
There is one application acceptance to do before you
But,
get to Mr.
Oh, I'm
We're here
sorry.
today.
Where am I? I thought he was the application.
Application acceptance for Woodville Ave.
Oh, okay,
It's
yes.
just quick.
Just a second, Mr. Ganong, just a second. So, we have application acceptance PL 2018-0075 CUP, Woodville Avenue. It's a proposal to level the lot with fill within the 50-foot wetland buffer. Is the application complete
Yes, it is.
and ready for hearing?
Yep, which
Then-
should be scheduled for next month.
Okay, so could we have a motion to accept as complete? Schedule the public hearing for August 7th.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Ms. Nail, second,
Second.
and seconded by Mr. St. Clair. Is there any comments or any questions for staff? Sensing none, we'll vote on the acceptance of this application. All those in favor signify by raising their hands. And opposed? And it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for pulling me back there. I saw John at the podium. And okay, so, new business. I did have one thing I was, I'm not asking you to vote on anything. There was, my understanding was, and I know I'm new to all this, that there's a steering committee for the, I think it's called a steering committee for the master plan.
Yes.
And the question has arisen as to whether they should continue their duties, and I'm wondering what the board thinks about that. There were some, in the land use section of the master plan, there were some recommendations, some areas to be explored, among them Hilliard Road as a possible site for future development in the city. And it occurred to the chair that perhaps it would make sense to ask the members of that committee to continue to so serve, so that they could perhaps focus a little bit more attention on what the next step would be, and to evaluate any proposals and work with staff on those proposals, which I would assume at this point are in the extreme preliminary stages, but there are some infrastructure questions that need to be dealt with. There are some questions regarding environmental impacts, things of that sort. The big picture being what it is, and for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, there's a road. It is barely passable, I think, in some places, but it's an old road that connects Parade Road to Route 3 at the Weirs. It's called Hilliard Road. Hilliard Road is improved to a certain point from the Weirs side, and it's basically just a dirt path, I think, from the Parade Road side at this point. What is the board's, is the board comfortable with this committee continuing on for the purposes of overseeing the recommendations that they've already made, that have already been made, and ensuring that the master plan has a useful life and doesn't just sit on the shelf? Okay, so I guess there's no opposition. Is there any opposition to that? Okay, so the board has spoken. The only other thing I wanted to,
So we need 3 members.
we need 3
Or
new
2.
members?
Well, we need at least 2 new members, because the only member left from the planning board that's still on the planning board is Bill Contardo.
Okay,
And I'm not 100% sure of his status, but assuming that he wants to continue to do that,
so we need some volunteers.
we need 2 additional people from the planning board. I think this would be an excellent opportunity for a new alternate, for instance, to really get their feet wet.
Everybody except them
They
just
got me
take a
3
step
months
back.
ago, so don't worry about it.
Can you, again, just say how often this group meets?
We were meeting about once a month last year to produce the new vision statement and the land use chapter for the master plan. I would anticipate a similar schedule. The emphasis this time would be, as the chair has noted, and there are other aspects of the master plan that need to be implemented as well, not necessarily all in the next year or 2, but we want to get started and get a little bit of direction. The mayor is very eager to do something about the state school property. As you know, the commission is going quickly as a state commission can go. They're going quickly on their end of things for the state school property. And then we have other proposals for
Do you
other
meet a s-
areas.
Do you meet a certain day of the week? Is it evenings? Is it?
It is,
during the day?
it has been like 5:30. I think we were meeting on Tuesdays, obviously not second Tuesday of the month because we're here, but
That's open for discussion amongst the
that's open for
members?
discussion. I mean, it would be an evening meeting because one of the counselors does not get back into town, I believe, until about 6 o'clock. So it would be 6:30 type
once a month.
start. Right, at the most, at the most.
Unless it's more frequently.
No.
Like twice a month.
Or
Which is
less.
not good.
I know it's not good.
I'll,
All right, well,
You're gonna volunteer?
yeah.
I will as well.
Ms. Jenna? Okay, so that fills the two existing vacancies, and I will,
Somebody's gonna get back to me and say, okay, this is.
oh, yeah.
and
You'll be hearing from me.
And I will
Sure.
contact the former chair and see if he's interested in serving. I would very much like to be on that. So if Bill's not interested in continuing, then I think it would make sense for me to step into his seat.
And I've already asked the citizen representative, Ruben Bassett, to continue, and he's willing to do that.
All right, excellent.
I might be an alternate, just so I can,
They're public
They're
meetings.
they're all public,
Anybody
yeah.
can come in and you chime in, that, yeah, no problem, more the merrier.
And we do have a counselor that will,
They have 3 counselors. David and Henry Lippman and the mayor.
Next month, we're gonna ask about CIP, so don't everyone volunteer at once.
CIP is fun.
They
I
go.
like it when they come in with the model fire trucks. That's
We
my
have big old
favorite.
spreadsheets now.
Oh, that's right. That's not fun anymore, so.
Peter, Hilliard Road's very important to Laconia.
Absolutely.
It really is. As a child, I used to go up the other end when it was a great road up the other end.
You could drive all the way through. I
You
used to
could,
take my
yes,
MG
yeah,
down there.
yeah.
There was
and-
an airstrip up there too,
Yeah.
wasn't there? that-
Limey Rice's, yeah,
Yeah,
airstrip,
that's
right
right.
where Pedal Pushes is right now.
Yep, and that's why I think I did years ago go up there and noticed that
Right?
whoever used the airstrip was
Yeah,
also
yeah.
involved in the upkeep
And
of that road.
the city was thinking about cleaning that road up and making it, accessible again for fire purposes.
Did
During the
it-
holidays, coming up Weirs Boulevard, it's very crowded. You could come from downtown and right down Hilliard Road into Weirs Beach.
Right.
It should, you can still go to, what is it, Roller Coaster Road, but it's just that much further,
Right,
yeah, so,
And we could have a higher speed limit on Hilliard Road.
yeah.
oh my
Yeah,
God,
higher than 5 miles an hour.
yeah.
I don't want a higher speed.
Oh, stop whining.
Okay, so we've done all that, and you covered all those bases, and thank you very much for your patience. And now, under old business 12.1, request for impact fee waiver for 355 Weirs Boulevard, its application PL 2017-0110 SP. It says here the application was approved in December 2017. It was continued from June 5th. The impact fee was brought up but never acted on, so, we hear from the applicant, yeah. Mr. Ganong,
John Ganong from 355 Weirs Boulevard. Changed, the change of use on the property was from a 48-seat restaurant to 2 one-bedroom units. As far as the impact goes, as far as water and sewer and the school system and the traffic, it's all less of an impact. One bedrooms, I'm not gonna rent them to 15 and 16-year-olds so they can go to school. It'll be a single person or a couple. And they did come out nice. I was very fortunate to get a temporary certificate of occupancy. And like I said, I hoped to have it straightened out the last meeting, but because of a medical emergency back at my house, I had to leave.
yes, we
So-
understood that, sir.
Yeah, so that's why I'm here tonight, to see. I read into the Article 4A impact fees here, and I didn't realize at the initial hearing that it could be adjusted. And when I read into this, it could be adjusted up to 80%. The fee for the two one-bedroom units is $3,400 impact fee. And I'm just here to ask if there's any way that I could get an adjustment on it, get my final CO, and get on with life.
All right, thank you.
And that's basically it. I just think that it's a little bit extreme for something that's less impact than impact.
It's an interesting situation.
Yeah, it happens, I guess.
Yes.
Can we make a motion to totally nullify the
Right.
impact fee?
No.
You can't do it. So the best you can do is
80%.
You can, the board has leeway to do any percent
up to,
up to 80%.
Up to 80.
I'd like to make a motion, if I can, to waive the impact fee up to 80% for this
Right.
property.
A second.
And that would be how much?
Calculator.
Get
Come on,
that
hit
calculator out. John, what's 80% of 3,400?
You got me. Listen, is this a quiz?
No.
Yes,
It's,
it
it
is.
has no bearing on the outcome either. I just thought you would have known it coming in.
Couldn't waive it.
You want how much he will have to pay or how much you're waiving?
What would he have to pay?
What would I have
How
to pay?
about both of those?
Same difference.
Don't give me that look.
The resulting impact fee will be $696.27.
Now, why are we not able to waive it?
Under the state law that enables us to have impact fees, once we establish the fee schedule, then we've got to uniformly apply them. And however, there is a provision in there that we can do discounts under certain conditions, and our ordinance allows, in this zone, there are several other zones that allows it, that if you are doing something that qualifies, and this is, in my mind, borderline whether it qualifies or not, but technically it probably does. Traditionally, this not the kind of thing that we've done reductions on, but so the provision is up to 80%. We've already discounted the fee schedule that was devised several years ago. We had a consultant come in and devise the fee schedule based on what are the actual services that various types of units of housing would impose on the city. They're actually much, much higher. I mean, it would be like, in his case, instead of the 3,400, it would be like $9,000 or $10,000. But the city has already reduced that down to a much lower level, and then you have the ability to reduce it even further. But
So the schedules have been adjusted since they were initially enacted?
No, they were discounted.
No, yeah, we just kept it.
But I think I was on the planning board when we adopted the impact fees in the first instance. And
we
and
put
I'm
a
right,
like a
if I'm right,
75%.
they had a consultant come in and actually figure things out based on the costs for, the proportional share of the cost of the impact on city services. But it occurs to me, and just off the top of my head, is that something we need to revisit? I mean, it's been quite some time.
We did go through that just a little while ago, and the board decided to just leave things as they are. We are required to do periodic reviews.
Okay. So we don't need to do another one?
No, we don't need to do anything at this time. So the fee schedule is established. The city council decided to do across-the-board reduction of only charging 25%. So the fees that are now assessed are at that 25% level, and then you get the opportunity to reduce it even further from that level, up to 80% of the 25%.
Is there any precedent for discounting 80%?
Oh, yes, we have done it. We've had several properties in the greater downtown area that have been empty for a while, and somebody comes in and has a different use and is filling them, and we have approved the reduction of the impact fees up to the full 80% for a number of properties.
This property came before us before for this. And I thought there was some reason we couldn't grant them.
So that was at the December meeting, Dean wasn't here.
Oh, okay.
And my interpretation was that it didn't meet the criteria as infill rehab and reuse. Also, I don't believe we had an actual application for the waiver
Okay,
in front of us.
so it does meet the criteria.
It does, it's borderline. From a technical reading of the ordinance, it would qualify, but from a practical and traditional, well, traditional is not the right word, because I haven't been doing it long enough to be traditional, but from our
Usual
standard and
customary.
usual,
Yeah.
what we allow, reduction of the impact fee on, this would be kind of a little bit out of the realm.
Yep. Is there any precedent for allowing the applicant to make that impact fee payment in kind, or does it have to be in cash?
Yeah, it's gotta be in cash, goes into a special fund.
Okay. So, you liked that idea, didn't you?
Oh, I know. I'm in finance, so
Well,
that's
there is an option for off-site improvements, but that's a
That wouldn't work in
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
in this case. I didn't know, maybe he would donate the nothing fancy sign to the Historical Society or something, but,
You don't even know what's going on with that name.
Really, Peter, don't go there.
Really?
Yeah, you
Don't go there?
Don't go
All right.
there.
I'm not going there.
Unbelievable.
I've been advised not to go there, and I'm gonna take that advice.
Yeah.
After,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
If-
Yes,
I just want to say that I believe in impact fees, I really do, but I think this is a classic example of, I think, John is right, the impact is much less than the business that was there. I mean, it's like night and day different. So I think that we've done the right thing, and we haven't passed it yet, but I think the motion was right to do at least the 80%, the max
Okay.
that we can do.
so,
Call the question?
yes, the question has been called. All those in favor of the motion signify by raising their hand. And opposed?
I'll abstain.
He's abstaining, all right. So, the motion carries, Mr. Ganong. We
Very
thank you
good,
very
thank
much
you.
for your patience, and we hope all is well.
I
Back
just
to
have
the
a
ranch.
question in regards to impact fees, seeing as how I do a lot of real estate. When a developer comes into town, we're looking for single-family homes. Like Governor's Crossing or whatever. What would be the impact fee on, say, a $300,000 home?
A single-family home is $1,907.40 for, it doesn't matter what size house it is, it's a single-family home, period. Is 1,900 and some change.
For a
So
single
somebody
family?
like the Gardens on Todd Street, or tonight we have, they would be in a slightly different, like with Langley Cove, they'd be in a slightly different fee structure. It's, it's for each
I
and every
really
unit.
appreciate your vote tonight. That's great, but it just seems as though, again, that the impact from what I was doing in comparison to the home
Right.
is, but anyway, thank you so much for your time. And by the way, you guys did a great job with that project. You
Oh,
gotta
we'd
be,
love
you've
to
gotta
do it
be,
all
you
over
have to
again,
be
but we won't.
exhausted. You have to be exhausted.
Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, guys. Good night.
So, do we have a report from the planning department?
Nope, nothing new.
Any,
Today.
liaison reports?
No.
LRPC, Conservation, City Council, Councilor's gone.
He's gone.
So, any other business? Yes,
I won't be, I just want to be on the record, I will not be here for the August meeting. I know you know, but I want us to know, my fellow members to know, so that when they got upstate,
yes.
so you can, who's ever here, do a good job.
August now, where would he be in August? Yeah, probably
Somewhere on the
Sturgis.
road.
I will not be here either. I don't know if that matters or not, but I will be.
Of course it matters.
Moving my son into his dorm.
Oh, my gosh.
When is the August meeting? Okay.
So if you guys remember, when you get the email from Kalina asking if you're coming, try to respond so we can make sure we have enough chairs and we know we have a quorum.
All right.
Yep.
And I might as well, while we're doing all this future planning, I will not be available for the September meetings, which means the vice chair, if available, would
Oh,
have
that'll
to
be fun.
30
handle
minutes.
that.
Well, that'll be a short meeting then. It's always a short meeting when
I
Edwin
can-
is chairing.
If I can secure the funding, I'd probably be on my honeymoon at that point, so. But we're still working on the funding. Maybe I should charge an impact fee. All right, so. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we need a second for that motion? I don't
You
think
got
so.
it anyway.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Go home. Thank you. Thank you all for your service.
Here's my red paper. All the red paper here?
I'll go around and pick it up.
This iPad was giving me agita.
So I'll
Maybe it's
see you-
because I don't know how to use it.
Sorry,
Yeah, see you
guys.
tomorrow.
All right, now.